Meeting come to order, please. Welcome. This is the regularly scheduled action meeting of the Board of Directors for the North Penn School District. Tonight we will be voting on various items that we've discussed at previous meetings, and in addition we also have proclamations to some of our outstanding students. During the people that are here should be advised that the meeting is being videotaped for play later on cable channel TV. So during the audience of citizens, which we'll have after the committee reports, we will have you raise your hand. I'll recognize you. You come to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record, and then you may provide any comments or ask questions about the school district that you wish, pertaining to any topic that pertains to the district. Please try to limit your comments to 3 minutes, and given that we have a lot of people here and everybody wants to talk, I will control that time as I see fit. With that, I'd like everyone to please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes. Ask Mr. Weir to assist me with the proclamation. And then we'll get into the
highlights.
As is our custom, we invite some of our outstanding students to attend board meetings to receive proclamations from the board. It's always a pleasure to assist the board president and represent the board in welcoming the teachers and students who are to be introduced tonight. Each of the proclamations has a common opening and then is tailored, customized, if you will, for each student. I will read the proclamation only once. Whereas many North Penn School District students individually and collectively perform distinguished service to their school in many activities, and whereas the reputation and image of the North Penn School District is built and enhanced by the performance of its faculty and students, and whereas the accomplishments of individual students in academic, artistic, athletic, leadership, literary, and musical endeavors bring positive community interest in school programs, and whereas the future of any community rests in the hands of its responsible youth, and then the student is named and the accomplishment is noted. I would like to invite one of our staff members, Sue Masti. I believe you're in the audience. If you would come to this podium, please. Sue Masti is here. Ellen McKee is not here. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Sue Masti is here representing the academic decathlon and the students who have been involved in the academic decathlon. If you would, please, would you tell the board and the audience a little bit about academic decathlon, and then invite the students who might be present to come forward for their proclamation.
Academic decathlon is a competition that is obviously very academic, and students compete in 10 different topics. We start out at a local level or at a county level, and then we go on to a state competition if we're successful at the county level. The different topics that involve would be students are required to give speeches, impromptu and prepared. They're required to have an interview. They're involved in something that's called a super quiz. And a super quiz, this year the topic was biotechnology. It goes on. They must be proficient in the fine arts. They must be able to identify slides and talk about slides of famous paintings, identify music. They have to read a selection and be quizzed or tested on that selection. They must be proficient in economics, mathematics, social studies, and in science. In total, there is, as I said before, there are 10 different things that they must be tested on and they compete in. This year, our team did very, very well. When we went to the county competition, our team brought home 26 medals. Our team consists of 9 students. Individual records were set by a number of our academic decathlon members. Torin Howe, in particular, along with Jake Hartman, won individual medals, both in their categories, and set actually at the local level state records. At that time, we came in second place. There was one team that also set some state records at that particular competition. When we went on to the state competition in Butler, Pennsylvania, once again, we did very, very well. Again, 26 medals. Individual records were set as far as the categories. Torrin was competing in the varsity category, and he set a state record and won a gold medal. Jake Hartman was competing in the scholastic category, and he won an individual gold medal and set a state record. I believe today we have Torrin Howe, who is our team captain, with us, and other members of the team, I'm not sure whether or not they're here or not, are John Lim, June Choi, Mandy Jo Jastrzemski, Jake Hartman, Sonia Paya, Bindu Parchuri, Torrin, Eric Shannon, and Susan Hawk. I believe Tori's here, and is anybody else? Okay. Tori is our captain, and
Represents the team.
he represents the team. And Tori, how many medals did you win? You don't know. 9.
One.
Thank you.
Oh, excuse me.
Sue? For service to us
Thank you.
as a team. Okay, we'll move on to the approving minutes for the previous meetings. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for the 692nd meeting held on the 16th of March?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by White, second by Redcamp. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there an approval for, the recommendation for approval of the minutes of the 693rd meeting on the 3rd of April?
Second.
Moved by Mangle, second by Redcamp. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Also, there's an approval, a recommendation for approval of the correction of the minutes to the meetings held on November 17th, December 15th, 19th of January, and the 23rd of February due to inappropriate or incorrect attachments, I think, to those minutes. Is that correct?
Reversal of numbers.
Reversal of numbers. Okay. Is there a
So moved.
moved by Redcamp?
Second.
Second by White. Any questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'd also like to announce that there was an executive session prior to the meeting tonight to discuss personnel matters. With that, we'll get on to committee reports. Facilities, Mr. Allen.
No report.
Okay, community services and policy, Carmen.
No report.
Okay, elementary ed, Tom.
No report.
Okay, secondary ed, Mr. Redcamp.
No report.
Okay, special ed, Terry's not here. Any one to report for her? Who's the alternate?
Yes, tonight we'll have for approval the guidance phase 2 to be approved tonight.
That we discussed at the meeting on Tuesday.
That's correct, and attached to the minutes.
Support services, Mrs. Mingle.
No report.
Finance, Ms. Shearer.
Briefly, Mr. Berman, I'd like to just extend apologies to those members of the community who anticipated the budget to be released tonight. I realize and certainly sympathize with the inconvenience that is caused by the continued delay. However, I would like to say that Mr. Kelly has worked very hard in trying to put together a budget and preparing it for the community, and unfortunately, the best laid plans of mice and men don't always come through the way you'd like them to be. And I have Mr. Kelly's assurances that as soon as possible, there will be a release of the formal budget.
Okay, any questions of Mrs. Shearer? Okay, personnel, Mr. Weitz.
No report.
Legislative, Carmen.
No report. Excuse me.
On the MCIU, I'd like to report that we had a meet and discuss with the administrators at the IU and agreed to contract terms for the next year. The board still has to vote on it, but based on the two negotiating committees, we came out with very satisfactory results of an increase of 2.9% in salary, with all the administrators going to personal choice. So That still has to be voted on by the IU, and then that'll be part of the budget for next year. North Monco, Ralph.
Yes, as of last night, actually, I can give a report that the projected the current actual enrollment for next year at that school is 800 students, and they expect it to grow a little bit between now and the start of the year. And also, I believe people have all received copies. Tonight I plan to, and I do recommend the approval of the proposed 1995-1996 annual budget of the North Monco Technical Career Center in the amount of $4,249,391, the proposed continuing education budget in the amount of $168,561, and the production control account budget in the amount of $38,000.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. I would suggest that someone table it, recommend that
I
we
move
table.
for the vote to be tabled.
We'll table it until after the audience of citizens, at which time we'll bring it up during Dr. Persing's report. We'll vote on that first and discuss it as appropriate. Okay? Anything else to report?
That's in the report.
Merck Science Partnership, Mr. Weitz.
There's an item on the agenda tonight to recommend the approval to submit a proposal to the Merck Institute for Science Education to fund the 1995-96 science activities in grades K through 8.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Weitz. Any questions of David? Okay. Any other assignments or committees that we have to report on tonight? Anyone has? Okay, thanks. It's now time for the audience of citizens. Anyone wishing to speak to the board can raise your hand. I'll get you and you come to the thing. Ms. Krieger?
Good evening, Sharice Krieger from Montgomery Township. In light of Mrs. Shear's comments and apologies on the delay of the preliminary budget, I feel compelled to get up and address something that was brought to my attention this afternoon. I was contacted by a local reporter who called me and asked me if the preliminary budget that I shared with her last night was received surreptitiously on my part, and if in fact I had received a copy of the budget from the board members. I informed this reporter that no, in fact, I had not. I walked in here as a member of the general public yesterday afternoon at 3:30, picked up a copy, still warm from the press, was told thank you for coming in to get it, and I left. Last week, the public was told that they would have a copy of the preliminary budget. When we showed up, we did not have it. What we received was an overview of revenues only and the proposed earned income tax. The board was supposed to have this report the week before. The date on the copy of the budget that I picked up yesterday is April the 20th, but the documents inside say April the 19th. If I'm not mistaken, this is probably exactly what the board received, cover and all, with the exception of the binder. I was also contacted by other members of the community who were outraged that I had a copy and they did not. So I took it upon myself to go out and make copies of it for the individuals that asked me for those copies. Dr. Persing, I'm here tonight as a member of the public to ask you, sir, to release this document now to the community. The date on it is April the 20th. If there are changes going on during the preliminary cycle of the budget, that is understandable and the public understands that. That is the purpose for a preliminary budget. I, as a taxpaying citizen, am tired of during the budget process getting the documents a day or two before they are going to be publicly discussed. We are looking at a $103.493 million budget for next year. It's great that we have on tonight's agenda another overview of the revenues and the earned income tax. Quite frankly, sir, a budget is a budget. Revenues are great, but this community needs to know how this board plans to spend the money. We know that you take in the revenues. What we have a hard time figuring out annually during our budget processes here in North Penn is how the money is proposed to be spent. What I'm asking for is a release of the budget tonight so that the community can have time to look over your proposed numbers in the preliminary budget so that we can come back informed and able to give this elected body meaningful, viable information and input so that they can make the best decisions for this community. And I think on behalf of the citizens in the North Penn School District that we're all tired of the delays. And we would like to get on with the budget process as it was promised to us. We're already a week delayed to the community, 2 weeks delayed to the board. The board has a copy, I have a copy, and every citizen in this district has a right to this copy, and I am asking, requesting nicely that it be released tonight. Thank you.
Mrs. Krieger, can I ask how you got a copy of it here at the district office?
Yes, I told you, Mr. Bowman, I walked through the front doors, I went to the appropriate place to get the budget, and I
Which
was
was?
handed it.
Mr. Bowman, that was from me.
I was handed
Mrs.
it.
Krieger came to the office, and she asked for a copy of the budget. At the time, I thought it was a public document.
And it was not pulled and revoked till this morning at 8 a.m.
Okay.
Mr. Bowman, I'd like to say that, quite frankly, at the last board meeting, when the budget was not presented, I made a request to the board, very much in the public forum of the meeting, that since the next anticipated date for the release was going to be the 13th, April 13th, rather than the 11th when we expected to have it, I made it a very public request that as soon as that budget is complete, that there would not be a lag time between the board, and everyone agreed publicly that that document would become public as soon as it was available. I do not in any way feel that Mr. Kelly has made any error or mistake in the fact that once the budget was out and being couriered to the board, that it was a completed budget.
Wait. No, we didn't agree to anything like that, that we could.
Absolutely.
That we were gonna turn it over to the public when we hadn't even seen it yet. It's not
Not when we
a
hadn't.
budget for everyone to see until Dr. Persing says, this is the budget that I'm gonna present to the board.
I believe that
He
was
hasn't-
done.
he
That's
hasn't
why
done
we
that
received
yet.
it. That's why we received the budget. We didn't receive a temporary budget, a preview budget?
Nor a
We received a
confidential budget.
document.
It's a budget.
No, it's really my fault. I perceived it, that when it went to the board, it was a public document. It was a faux pas on my part.
It had gone to the board.
It should not have happened. But I did not realize that, Mr. Bowman, until after it had happened. When people came today, I told them that they could not have a copy.
We denied
I
copies to
believe-
many people today.
That's true.
Simply because we didn't have them,
Right.
and we had no authority to
Well,
release
quite
them.
frankly, I see a budget as a public document. From the day it's made, it's a
Okay,
public.
solve the problem. Tomorrow they'll have enough copies made, or do we have them made now so
There
that
are
people
no-
can come pick them up?
There are no
tomorrow?
copies made, are there?
There are
We'll get them
four,
made tomorrow and
there are
distributed.
4 extra copies, and I apologize to the board, and if the board desires my resignation over
It's
this.
just that one person.
Mr. Kelly, please, these are not CIA documents, and I find it very difficult that anyone should have to explain giving a member of this
That was not my
community
intention.
a budget.
Mr. Bowman, excuse me, can I just say something, please? This document has a cover, it has a date on it. And it
So?
states it's a preliminary document, public document.
Mrs.
There
Krieger,
is
that's
nothing
enough.
wrong with
We-
releasing
There's no
this.
problem in giving it out. We just want to make sure that one person doesn't get it, that everybody gets it. There's no problem in giving it to the public as long as the superintendent says, my name is on it, this is the preliminary budget that I want to give to you and the board. There's no problem with that. I'm concerned when one person comes in and gets it, and not everybody else can come in and get it. That's what concerns me. Right now, Dr. Persing has said it's releasable, it doesn't matter what date it's on it. He's given it his stamp of approval that we want to work from. We just now have to make copies for the rest of the public to come in and pick up. We will do that tomorrow, correct, Mr. Weir?
But in order
Mr.
to
Bowman, I would
clarify
just like the
something-
board to know that this was not done as a favor
I
to anyone.
understand.
If anyone would have called at 2:45 yesterday afternoon, I would have thought it was releasable.
I understand.
And
That's
Mr.
fine.
Bowman, you did receive your copy yesterday, correct?
No, I received it today.
Well,
I
I
was
know
not
that other
home
board
yesterday.
members did receive their
I
copies
got it
yesterday.
today.
Difference does it
Well,
make?
It's
take
not
it
a
you-
big deal, Mrs. Krieger.
Thank you. Very good.
May I say something?
Sure.
Since Mrs. Krieger addressed the question to me, I think it's only appropriate that I answer. Since this is my very first time as presenting a budget to the public and of course to the board, it was my understanding that we would review this as a cabinet, as per the cabinet's suggestion to me. And then we would work on this next week, making fine tuning that is needed for a budget. The budget will be constantly changed. This is not a final document. And it was simply my understanding that that was the procedure under which we were to operate. If that causes any consternation from anyone or causes any type of problem, then simply, as I said to the president, please release it. It's a public document. There's no problem with that. The problem not only that I have is that you as a public understand that this is a guide. It's not a mandate to spend. It's not a final document. So please don't take these figures that are there or anything else in them and think in terms of this is the final document. The final document will be that which the board adopts in June. That's what it will be. So please try to understand it. Mrs. Krieger, do you appreciate those remarks? Absolutely. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom. Yes, sir.
Good evening again, I'm Chuck Hammond. This sounds like a fun place tonight. Quite honestly, on the last page of the handout tonight, there was an item called the 1995-96 proposed budget. So I'm not sure what we're all arguing and fighting about, but isn't that on the last page?
No, it's,
For $103 million, which is the same number she quoted?
no, it's this.
Yes, it is.
Actually, that's a summary, that last column is a summary of the budget.
put it
I
up.
said-
Okay,
since I have
but it just seems to agree with the same numbers and that kind of stuff. Okay, please don't take that on my time.
Okay.
Once again, let me state that the earned income tax is not an option. The audacity to say that the earned income tax is the most fair tax to levy because it only affects working people is absurd. In today's economy, almost everyone is working, from school kids with part-time jobs to senior citizens trying to pay their rent and school taxes. Remember, many seniors in our area rent their apartments, and this tax will affect any earnings they make. This tax will have a far greater dollar impact on the people of North Penn than any real estate tax increase. Many residents are currently sending their kids to private or parochial schools, and others have kids in college. This earned income tax could preclude some parents from accomplishing these goals. Most people in this district do not pay an earned income tax now and don't want to in the future. Burkheimer's number showing 259 people in Montgomery Township currently paying an earned income tax is a perfect example. That's 1% of the township's population that Burkheimer knows of. This tax, if enacted, would be a static amount. The days of the 5 to 10% salary increases are over. Again, Burkheimer's quote of an average 6% income increase, and again, the key word average is wrong. If you are very lucky, the tax will have a 0 to 3% increase per year, because that is what salary increases are these days. This earned income tax is a smokescreen that may, and again I say may, preclude a real estate tax this year, but unless you plan on a zero budget increase for next year, the real estate tax hike will be back again. We'll be right where we are today, only you'll have a much added burden tax to the wage earners with your earned income tax. Another of Burkheimer's numbers is questionable, that 10% of the population of North Penn work in Philadelphia. Many of the new developments in my township are populated with people from Philly, and I would assume that many of these people work there. The last board meeting's discussion of salary increases for the marching band, jazz group, and chorus teachers for the 7th, 8th, and 9th graders is ludicrous. Is this the Juilliard Academy of North Penn? This is just the kind of fiscal irresponsibility that we are tired of. Let's try one of each for the junior high in its entirety. That might be a novel approach. If you're serious about new ideas for North Penn, Dr. Persing, such as budget cutting and some sound fiscal practices, we'll work with you on them. but I believe the earned income tax is an old idea and a very bad choice. Thank you.
Gary Robinson, Hatfield Township, member of the Lincoln Party. I'm still extremely agitated and disturbed over last month's vote by this school board to cover a note with bond money. And I find some serious irregularities in the so-called audit of 1994, June 30th. In June of '94, this board voted to approve a $10 million bond, a $25 million note A, and a $25.6 million note B. According to the Local Government Unit Debt Act, Article 4, Section 404, and also covered in your note agreements, this board should have also made an appropriation to make payments on both of those notes, which apparently was not done. Yet, only about 5 months after the note A was approved, the June 30, '94 lists a note as a bond. I find that highly irregular and certainly in great conflict with accounting practices. How 8 months before this board voted to approve covering a note with bond money, that same note showed up in an audit as a note or as a bond? Bond money is supposed to be restricted to capital expenditures. It appears obvious from these school district records that there was an intent from the very beginning to use long-term bond money to cover note expenditures. I understand that based on that is where you minus the $99 million shown in the audit and come up with the recently stated figure of $77 million bond for the school district debt. Yet at the same month in June or January '94, the note B for $25.6 million shows apparently nowhere in the audit or budget figures. Looks like we're getting into stealth debt, even though it was approved publicly. That note B does not show up in the financial records elsewhere. If you include that, we're still at $99 million debt. Of course, it's being classed as short-term, so it doesn't show up in the audit, so-called audit. But there also doesn't appear any action taken to have been covered with by appropriation, the monthly payments or annual payments on the note. Are we going to end up with another situation where note money is covered by bond? We get an explanation from the school board, and in addition to that, I think I need to remind this board, it appears that you have, when you take an oath of office, you have a fiducial legal obligation. Apparently what's happening here is you have administrators that dictate to the board what the administrators want, and the elected officials are rubber stamping what administrators are advising. I asked this board how many people have actually read the financial agreements, contracts, and other things that you approve.
I did.
I haven't read the ones I've read the back
I
bond
signed.
statements.
I think this
Thank you.
community
Can
needs
you
to call.
wrap it up, Mr. Ross?
Yes, I think this community needs to call the Attorney General's office, the Auditor General of this state, and demand an investigation of the financial operations of this school district.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi,
My name is Mary Martha Whitworth, Mary Martha Howe tonight. And I live in Talminson Township. Exactly 2 years ago, next month, a very talented North Penn senior named Mark Patton stirred up this community with an article in the Night Crier entitled "Extremists Threaten Public Education." In his article, Mark tried to warn us about what can happen to a school district if extremist groups take over the school board. Although many people were outraged at the censorship attempts and the harassment tactics used by some board members to quiet Mark, few people seem to have really listened to his warning. Now, however, when we look around, perhaps we can begin to understand what he was talking about. The North Penn School District, once one of the best school districts in the state, has become one of the most troubled districts in less than 2 years. This is not a local phenomenon, however. In districts across the country, as extremist groups take over school boards, the pattern is exactly the same. First, a building program is proposed by the school district. A taxpayer group forms in protest. Taxpayer group members are elected to the school board. The building program is stopped. Censorship of books and curriculum increases. Key administrators are eliminated. Friction, negativism.
Excuse me, Mrs.
Yeah.
Shearer, could you please be quiet so we can listen? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Friction, negativism, and distrust builds, and the school district begins to deteriorate. Does this sound familiar? Does it seem strange that exactly the same pattern shows up in districts from Florida to California to Texas, as in Pennsylvania? The Wall Street Journal, major magazines, and many national television news shows have featured stories about a large national extremist organization which is running a highly organized nationwide campaign to have their followers take control of every school board in the country. In Florida, when these extremists took over a school board, the first thing they did was remove all the multicultural books from the school libraries. Their second project was to eliminate all sex education programs from the schools, and no one could stop them. Can something like this happen in North Penn? Perhaps it already is. Recently, an elementary school teacher was asked to remove a poster from her bulletin board because it talked about fantasies. A secondary teacher had to stop doing a very effective self-esteem activity because it wasn't part of her curriculum. Books have been removed from classrooms and libraries. We saw what happened to Ellen Jenke when she spoke up for what she believed in. Just recently, I have heard that several North Penn faculty members have been approached by a Republican committee man, who is also a member of the Taxpayers Association, with the threat that, quote, "When we take over the school board, you will be gone." I think this is very frightening. Does this school board condone district employees being threatened? What do you plan to do about it? By the way, those last two questions are not rhetorical. I would like you to answer those when I finish, please. Morale in our school district is at an all-time low. Mistrust, fear, and negativism pervade the district. This is affecting not only our children's education and the reputation of the district, but is even affecting our property values. An acquaintance of mine, who is a realtor, told me that in the last 2 months she has had calls from 5 different families who are being transferred into the North Penn area because of their employment. Each one of them asked her to show them houses in any school district but North Penn. This primary school board election on...
Could you
Yeah,
wrap
this
it
is it. This primary school board election on May 16th is not about the second high school, or the budget, or the teacher's contract. It's about saving our school district from total destruction. I hope that this time we listen to Mark's warning. Could you answer the question about whether or not we condone threats to school?
Obviously, we don't, but not being in first person there, it's very difficult to prove in that case. Obviously, that's not something it's something that the personnel director, Mr. Schmidt, should be apprised of if something like that happens. Whether the person is a Republican committee man or a board member or anyone else should be reported to the personnel director. Anyone else wishing to speak tonight? Sure.
My name is Don Hill, Lansdale. I have a couple of requests I'd like to make to the board as you move through the policy and the different policies you're working on and new superintendent coming on board, and as you work the budget, is that you take into consideration that the makeup of this board is going to change, because 3 of them are already said they're not going to run again, are going to change over by the time next year comes around, and the school board has to operate the district in the future years, is that you take care on the policies that you make over the time period of this year, that you don't burden the future boards with certain policies that may have to be changed. One of those that come to mind, of course, is the earned income tax. I'd like you to defer that to see how things go. The other thing I think is even more important than that is the relationship to the superintendent. You have a new superintendent coming on board, and I would hope that you wouldn't be making any organizational changes or staffing changes in that area. The new superintendent is going to have to determine his own staffing, his own personnel, and his own operation, and I would hope that you would not burden him with any new changes or organizational moves in that area before he has a chance to look at it himself and make his own decisions. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Anyone else? Hand there in the left.
My name is Don Boring. I live on Andover Road, Lansdale. And I moved to Lansdale in '85 from Upper Perk for several reasons. One, because I heard about the school district, and 2, to get closer to work when I was working. And because I like the area. Over the last several months, especially since February, I've been reading, watching, and listening, and trying to attend as many meetings as I could. But I'm amazed that this is part of the stack of the papers I've saved where there's been contradictions made from articles. I don't know if it's the reporter's fault or whose fault it is. But I would like to say thanks to Dr. Pearson, for one thing, for his article on April 8th about outlining exactly how many classrooms and et cetera is going to be in the new building. But I also have a concern about the new building that I would like to ask is how we're going to put 1,200 students in an 800 seating auditorium. And I would also like to thank the board for what they've done with the in-service days. I see in the copy tonight that you've even reduced it even more on the number 2 proposal. And I think the in-service days that I've seen since I've been in the district have been far and too many. And I haven't seen anything in any of the minutes concerning how many early dismissal days there are going to be next year. The other question I have that I ought to have answered sometime tonight on concerning the 1% or 1.5%, whatever the earned income tax is going to be, is that under the exclusions part of it, strike benefits. My question is, when the teachers go on strike, to my understanding, probably right or wrong, but if they are paid to strike, then I think they should be taxed for striking. And I would like to, have an answer on that. Also, I noticed delinquent real estate taxes. Before a budget is proposed, I would like to see that people in the district make sure that the school board collects those taxes, because the possibility is if you collect these taxes, the millage on our property taxes could probably stay down for X number of years. I'm concerned with the TV coverage. I thought I would have seen, the last meeting I was not able to be here, I thought I would have seen it on TV before Saturday night, the 15th, before Easter morning. And I watched all day Thursday and Friday on TV to find out when it was going to be broadcast. And a friend of mine who knows that I'm really interested in what's going on with the school district called me up at 9:15 to tell me that it's on our school TV channel. So I would like to see, if possible, if the meetings that are taped to be put on that channel and the schedule put up instead of all of a sudden we turn to that station and there it is. In December '94, the Social Security Administration sent letters to people on Social Security, people on disability, and that letter stated, because I am on disability at the moment, that our increase for 1995 is going to be 2.8%. 48 hours later, our beloved president, who I respect highly, told the nation that the average earning was 3.1%. So you see, a lot of people got shafted already. So I would like to propose several things. I also, Dr. Piercing, I noticed that in one of your articles, the Soil Inquiry, you were going to think possibly of freezing teacher hiring. And with that in mind, and until we come to a teacher contract settlement, I would like to make several proposals to this board. And being a property owner and a single parent, I am concerned because I am getting close already to my disability payments being equal to what I have to pay out. I am going back to college. I had to sweat through 2 strikes, North Penn and Monco, possibility of striking. And I'm going back to school because I want to go back to work. And I don't mind paying 1%, 0.5%. In fact, the money is going to be honestly used for the children and the children only. So I'd like to propose to this board, until the teacher strike is settled, freeze all administrative raises, and collect all delinquent taxes, and to really consider a starting salary for the new superintendent, because I believe strongly that man is worthy of his hire, and I would like to see what this gentleman can do for this district, for our kids, before we start dishing out hundreds of thousands of dollars for a superintendent because he made that kind of money in another district. Our district is different than their district. Thank you. Thank you.
Hand there in the back, blue sweater. Jack.
My name is Art Ramsey from North Wales. I'm a former school board member and retired, that is. I would like to suggest a project that you gentlemen and ladies would care to look at. It's the Leeds and Northrop property. We can rent or buy that property for a lot less than you're going to build this new school that you're talking about. Now, we the taxpayers would like the school board to look into buying or renting the Leeds and Northrop property. But just about it has just about every facility a school needs to operate with. It already has electric, water, washrooms, open space, parking space, etc. We could save the taxpayers millions of dollars. It's also open for bids, subject to bids. Now there's a space in there, one building is 635,000 square feet you can buy for $12.7 million. Or you can rent that space. Now, we could have also the Vo-Tech school move into the Legion Northrop property, rent it or buy it again, and use the Vo-Tech school for classrooms and so forth. Now, I've given the specs to Tom Clemens, Donna Mango, Vicki Sheriff, and I think Donna said you gave them to Art Wood, did you, Donna? Well, I have a few more copies here that I would like people to look at. Can you pass this down, please? Art Wood, did you get one of these?
Yeah, I had this for about a year and a half.
You've had it for a year and a half?
Yeah.
What you been doing with it?
We've been having quite a bit of discussion. We've had quite a bit of discussion internally about it. I wrote a number of memos to the board. We visited it. We were there just recently again.
You toured the Legion Northrop property?
Yes, sir.
Were you with him, Tom?
No, but he did tell me that he did tour it.
And what did you come up with?
Well, it came up with a number of different things. The building needs to have a complete assessment by an engineer and architect before it could be used as a school. We had a concern about the layout of the building. We had a concern about the land that has been sold off. We had a concern about, you look initially at the two-story office complex in the front, which is some 75,000 square feet and would be very conducive to classroom construction. But then when you look at the remaining facility, you realize that even though you have height, you have to lower the ceiling to make classrooms out of it. We've looked at it at length, and quite frankly, our greatest interest would be in the research and development building across the street.
Good.
And we recently spent a half a day going through it. We have been in constant contact with the realtor that originally, well, with the person that worked for Binswanger and did the initial listing, and had a conversation with him, quite frankly, as late as Tuesday of this week. And I need to tell you that the building is under agreement of sale currently.
Been under agreement of sale for quite a while.
No, it just recently happened in the last 10 days. And we are waiting for the outcome of that particular transaction.
So you are interested in it, right?
We had very much interest. I went with Dr. Persing, and we were very much interested in the research and development part of the property, which is 112,000 square feet, located on 17 acres, and it is on the other side of Dickerson Road.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're looking into it, because you could save the taxpayers an awful lot of money. You can either rent it or buy it, like I say.
We really wouldn't be interested in renting it because the new owner would be paying property taxes, whereas we would be tax exempt. So it would cause the rental fee to be higher than owning the building on our own. But we are very current with what's happening with the property.
Glad to hear that, because if you build a school in Montgomeryville, I know all of you have been down 309 with all that traffic and everything that's over there right now. You build a school over there, and you're just gonna triple the traffic and everything else in Montgomeryville. And couldn't we sell off that ground that you bought as open space and do what I'm saying here?
That would be the choice of the board.
I know that would be the choice of the board.
And I don't think the best sale would be for open space. I mean, the best sale if the property would ever be sold would be for development purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Ransom.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you continue to look into it. I'm glad to hear you made a tour of the place, too. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Karen Clark, Montgomery Township. Last week you discussed extra duty pay raises for seventh and eighth grade band directors. While I think it was understood that we will wind up with 2 eighth grade band directors since we were splitting the schools because of Penndale, I question why the 7th grade band suddenly gets extra duty pay. It was my understanding that when 6th and 7th grade were together, we had a 6th grade band and a 7th grade band, but they happened inside the school day. It was part of the teacher's contracted day. I'm curious how it ended up being part of an extra duty assignment.
I wasn't here then.
Mr. President, I did discuss it with Mr. Redcamp, and we're pulling that from the agenda tonight. We have a meeting with the extracurricular committee, which is teachers, administrators, and coaches or athletic director. And we'll come back with a recommendation in the May meeting, but we're pulling that, the band director positions off the board tonight. We're tabling it.
But as
However,
far as
up
the
through
questions...
this year, I think I can speak authoritatively that while the 6th grade was in the middle school, there was both a 6th grade and a 7th grade band. They practiced it after hours, and it was an extra duty position. If you look at the extra duty positions, there was a 6th and a 7th grade band.
I know there was a 6th
extra
and
duty.
7th grade, but
And it was after school. My son's concert, I've been to it, and he plays it.
you mean just the, even
There's practice
concerts after school?
Yes. There's practices
But
after school and concerts. There was extra duty pay for it, and it was after school that you earned extra duty pay.
Ralph, it wasn't for each grade level, was it?
Well, there was a 6th grade band and a 7th grade band. My question is about extra duty pay for it. How did it end up outside of the school day? And the other thing I'd like you to think about is our marching knights are 10th, 11th, and 12th grade band, and we all know that works. Well, why can't we have a combined?
That's what we're looking into. That's what Dr. Fike says. We're not going to vote on it tonight. We're going to look at it again, primarily because of the move to the different structure next year, possibly having a director and an assistant director for the whole school, period. Okay?
Dick, are we
Thanks,
reviewing
Karen.
this item then? Is there the one that, it is on the agenda?
We're not going to, Dr. Persing has pulled that for tonight.
Okay, so I'd like everyone to understand that my complaints against that was not any prejudice or an attack on any one personnel member when I chose to disagree with the hiring or the elevation of that position.
All right.
Just so it won't be misinterpreted and twisted.
Anyone else, sir?
My name is Charles Bailey, Upper Gwinnett Township. I think a lot of people are not really aware of how much your proposed tax increases are going to cost and how much they are costing now. According to the information I've been able to get together, the average taxpayer now pays $1,875 a year in school taxes. That's $156 a month. The increase that you propose for option B raises the school tax take by 40%. That's a $750 per year increase for the average homeowner, or $64 a month. Now, many people who rent think they don't pay school tax, but let me assure them that they do. It's in their rent. If anyone doubts it, if there were no school tax, the carrying cost of buying an average house would drop by $156 a month. Now, if that happened, tenants would all of a sudden leave rental properties, and since the rental property owners are no longer paying school tax, they could drop their rents by that much, and they would do that in order to keep their buildings occupied. So right now, the average tenant probably pays $156 a month for the school taxes, and that's hidden in his rent. When you put forward your school tax increase over the next 5 years, you're going to raise that from $156 a month to $220 a month. That's what the average tenant will be paying then for school taxes. Now, your school tax will also lower property values. In this area, I believe we have about 30,000 households in the district, of which about 10,000 have children in school and 20,000 have no children in school. Those 20,000 pay $1,875 a year and cost the district absolutely nothing, and they get no benefit from the school tax that they pay. You plan to increase their taxes by $750 a year. A lot of those people who don't have children in school are retired people. They're on fixed incomes. Many of them are struggling with the taxes they got now. You raise it by that much, you'll drive them out. Now, you won't drive all of them out immediately, but you will drive some of them out. Now, the people who are driven out, they're going to sell their house. Well, first of all, if it costs an extra $750 a year just to have a house, okay, that makes it less desirable, because anybody who's going to live there has $750 a year less spendable income. It makes it less desirable also for a buyer. It makes it less affordable for a buyer. A buyer, his carrying costs include the school taxes. If you increase his school taxes by $750 a year, you've increased his carrying costs by that much. And in today's market, that translates into a value of $7,500 on the sale value of the house. So when you do that, you will have reduced the property value of the average residential house by $7,500. More expensive houses will suffer a bigger loss. Now, as the retirees and other people who have no children decide to flee, who will buy their houses? People who don't have children and get no benefit from the higher school tax? I doubt it. It'll tend to be people who have children. All right? Now, what does that cost? Let's say a person moves in.
Could you wrap it up?
With 2 children. According to the school district budget, the average cost per child is $7,600 per child. If a family moves in with 2 children, that costs the district $15,200 a year. That person who does that pays the same $1,875 a year as a retiree who moved. So we're driving out the subsidy payers, and we'll be pulling in people who take the subsidy. The result of that is you've got to raise the money. That means you're going to have to raise the taxes even more in order to keep up, more than you planned and more than you saved. Just for an example, and this is my final 2 sentences here, if that process were to take place so that half of the 20,000 people who have no children in the school were to leave and be replaced by 10,000 people with children, you would have doubled the number of families with children. That means you will have doubled the number of school buildings, the number of school teachers, the number of school administrators, and the taxes. So what that means, in your budget, you have said we'll go from 250 mills to about 320 odd mills in 5 years. If this process takes place, I think you might be talking a whole lot more than 320 mills. You might be talking closer to 600 or 700 mills.
Thank you, Mr.
Think
Miller.
about it.
Good evening. My name is Ellen Janke, and I live in the borough of Lansdale. I don't even know where to begin. Yes, the people that don't have children in the schools do benefit, and I feel that they benefit a lot. If we don't have good schools, we don't have a decent community to live in. That was just a thought that flew into my mind as Mr. Bailey was speaking. It was like, yes, it does matter. I don't know the exact millage. We haven't gotten to that point yet. I don't want to use scare tactics. But I know this board's going to do the best job they can to keep it at a minimum. You're going to embark on approving the new budget for the next school year. That's a very difficult job for you. I just have a few comments to make. The whole thing regarding last week that was made, it was last Tuesday, about the number of band teachers at the middle school. yes, you should question these things as they come up, but the remark that was made about things were like this when we were in high school, why are they doing this, like referring back to the 70s. A lot of us went to smaller high schools in the 70s. If we want to go back to what we had, we'd have to have 3 high schools. We'd have to have more band directors. There's a lot of things. We wouldn't have computers, so we don't want to backtrack. We want to go forward to the future. The vote was taken for the 2nd high school. We all know this is going to be fought every step of the way. It's been made public knowledge in many forums that it will not happen. The expansion is extremely too expensive in that we will need another elementary school. The modulars have a shelf life, if that's what you want to call it, and some of them have already reached it, or they're getting very close to it. There'll be additional security at the high school for overcrowding, the transportation, as someone stated. It is getting more crowded for our buses to get across the district. It would help there. Now for the do-nothing plan. One overcrowded largest high school in the state of Pennsylvania is not possible. Real estate values have already started to go down, and it's not because of the scare tactic that our taxes are going to go through the roof. My neighbor has just sold their house for $8,000 less than they paid for it 5 years ago. It has nothing to do with the fear of escalating taxes. This school district has to keep its reputation. We're not talking a couple $100s here, we're talking thousands of dollars. And the other option, if we do nothing, is okay, we have to educate these children. That's what the school board is here for. That's what they're empowered to do. They're empowered to set curriculum and to make sure our children are educated. Split sessions would be increased discipline problems. You'd have kids on the streets at sometimes and other kids in school. I just don't think that would work. You'd have shorter teaching time for the children. Will there be time to use science labs? Wouldn't Merck Partnership just love to hear that? Oh, we don't have time to do that. Children would be going much earlier. Children would be getting out much later. After-school activities are important. They are important, and our children must feel that they are a part of this. I just would like to see us to move forward. To, as Mr. Hill stated, let's not leave some of these problems for the next board. Let's get moving here. Let's discuss curriculum. Let's discuss the things that have to be taken care of. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Vince Rapinski. I'm from Palminson Township. I'm going to bring a grievance to the board tonight. I am upset about the political activities at school-sponsored events. The district a few years ago had a lot of problems like this. They set a policy that they did not allow politics on the premises inside a building. Somehow this policy has changed. The school district is allowing people to do political activities inside their buildings. Now, in an effort for fairness, I approached the administration about this a month ago, and I was told that if one does it, they all can do it. I'd like to stress to the board, I think it's inappropriate. It should be stopped. Tonight I went to a home and school meeting at my elementary school. There, a group publicly distributed a flyer with an endorsement of candidates. This group is not a political action committee. This group clearly violated the law doing this. I do not think the school should sponsor or allow any group to violate a law on its own premises, first. Secondly, I'm a member of the coordinating council. Last night, we had a meeting at Bridle Path Elementary. I do not think it's appropriate, and I did not at all like it, period, that I was subjected to political rhetoric for 15 or 20 minutes at the end of this meeting by individuals who are members of the executive council of this group. All right? president of the coordinating council, Ellen Allen, is in the audience. You can ask her to come up and talk about it. If you need clarification. I didn't like it. I don't think it's appropriate. I'd like to ask every member of the school board to possibly have a ruling tonight and stop it. It's not appropriate. I don't volunteer my time as a parent to come and help my kid's school, raise funds, do things, coordinate things, and have to subject myself to political activity. I don't do it myself, okay? I keep my distance. I think it's appropriate. As a parent, I don't want to see it anymore. I'm tired of it. Tonight was the straw that broke the camel's back. I don't like it. Last night's coordinating council meeting to me was very offensive. I didn't think it was right. I sat through it. I never said anything politically. I was basically verbally abused because I have a difference of opinion. I don't like it, okay? It's not appropriate. I think this board should really make a ruling on this and either stop it or allow any group to come in and do something like this. It's not appropriate. I don't think it should be there. I know Dr. Persing has talked about this before. I don't know if you've made an official ruling. I really would like to see the board tonight make a decision, either not allow this stuff or turn the faucet open and let everybody come out and do it. I've already explained to you my problem with one particular group. If you need the name, if you need the details, I'll be glad to supply it. But I ask the board to please tonight, if you have something on the agenda that you can add, please add this to it and end this kind of stuff. It is terrible. As a parent, I can't stand it anymore. I think it's inappropriate. It's in poor taste. I can't even tell you, I'm almost speechless. Is that inappropriate to ask you to stop something like this? I already told you that one of the activities of these groups is wrong, possibly illegal. Okay? I don't think this board should condone it. Would you like to address it?
I don't know the specifics. What's the law? Let's see what- They're allowed to-
We allow groups to meet in the building. Just for example, the taxpayers group meets in this room.
We do not hold political activities here.
Excuse me.
Well,
No, we don't want them in the
let me say,
Show me
let me
proof
just
of my
say
comment.
that if you're having a meeting and you find something inappropriate, the president or whoever's running that meeting should be advised of that. If that's not the purpose that you were there for, that's what shouldn't be we've made it a policy that anyone that wants to distribute literature within the school from a political perspective about the school district can do that, pro or con, whether you agree with that or not. That if this board then wants to review that policy and make 2 public readings of that and change that, then we'll go about and do that. But that's up to the
That's what I
board.
asked the board to do. Please, think about it.
Mr. Potash, would you like to comment on that, particularly as to any other way that we can do that?
Very, very difficult to comment on a situation that, number one, you don't have the facts as to what took place. We have a school board policy, which we spent an awful lot of time before we adopted, regarding the fact that we do have a limited open forum, and the fact that we have a philosophy in this community that we use these facilities and community groups can use those facilities. We've also had discussion when we adopted the policy that material can be distributed so long as it doesn't interfere with the ingress or passage in and to the meeting room. And we provided that material could be handed out even though it may have been of a political nature. We're dealing with rights of freedom of speech, rights of people to express themselves. This is a limited open forum that the school district operates, and if it gives the opportunity to one, it has to give the opportunity to others. And if a political group wants to use these facilities, it can, like any other community group. You're absolutely correct when you state if there is a meeting and the purpose of that meeting is somehow or some way disrupted or interrupted by the insertion of a material or discourse which changes the purpose of the meeting, it is up to the president of the organization and the people in the control of the meeting to control that.
Mr. Parish, does it have any impact if it's a school-sponsored organization that's promoting
No, we addressed
a
that.
set political
Did
candidates?
Mr. Potash, did the board address the issue that if a particular group violates the law, they would still be allowed to do this?
It's,
Would this
the
district take a
issue,
position
well,
on that?
first of all, when you're talking about violating the law, you have to have, number one, the facts that establish
I
there
know
was a
the law. I'm
violation
just
of the,
asking.
and I know you're an attorney. In fact, there was a recent opinion that appeared in today's newspaper where a state statute was held as unconstitutional, whereby material was handed out and there was no sponsoring group regarding, and I'm sure you're shaking your head, you're aware of that. Now, that's different than Pennsylvania law. Now, Pennsylvania law still requires that the sponsoring group on political material at least indicate that they're the author or it's their material that's handing out. And the discussion in that particular case, which appeared just in the last day or so, was the freedom of speech guaranteed by the Constitution. So that's what you're dealing with. And our policy that we adopted in this school district, we spent a lot of time, because we had a lot of religious issues to be discussed, a lot of political issues to be discussed, the uses of facilities, the Equal Access Act. There were so many things that has come about in the last couple of years, and we spent one heck of a lot of time. And incidentally, the policy that we have now is derivative of a number of different things that took place that changed over the course of years to where we believe what we have now will stand constitutional muster. And the way the president of the board enunciated the position is absolutely correct. Now, if at your meeting last night, somebody accosted you, assaulted you, threatened you, sure, that's a violation of law, but that's something primary, your personal right that you can enforce. If anybody came into that meeting and prevented your ingress by standing out and holding and forcing you to take a piece of information, obviously, that would be against the policy of the school district to do so. But what takes place inside your meeting is the business of that
Is
organization.
it possible that this, I'm sure this policy is in writing, is it possible I can achieve a copy of this?
Oh, absolutely.
Is it from you or is it from Mr. Weir?
This policy, Mr. Weir keeps the policies of the board, but that was adopted by this board at a public meeting after much discussion, after many evolutions over the years. And I think perhaps you may want to review for yourself the limited open forum, the decisions by the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, as well as the Court of the United States Supreme Court in those matters, and you'll see how little control we have once we allow community access to these facilities.
Mr. Bowman, tonight, is it appropriate now, or is it appropriate under other business to bring up, to suggest that we do in fact review this policy in light of this being a political season, and it might be character building on the part of many to review it in public at this point in time?
Well, we don't have it, we haven't studied it. You know, it's been a while since we passed it, but I know that because I think I was the policy person at the time, we went through a lot of
Well, then it might be time for a review is my point.
consternation about that.
It's been 2 years, it might be time for a review, and we're in a political season. It's been called into question, it's not, it's something we can all benefit from.
I know I've received a lot of negative reactions from
Last
parents, and I
review-
think that it should be reviewed just
The
as
last
it is.
review-
I mean, for future
Equal access.
review, on the agenda for future
The
review.
last review took place,
Carmen's policy.
with due respect,
Well, do you want to put it up for a vote? I mean, we can put it up for a vote. Do we want to review this or
We'll
what?
put it up for review
For review.
tonight. We'll
For
just-
review or reading? I'm not quite sure what you're asking. Do we look at it again?
That's what
Do
she's
we,
asking.
Public
do we
review and
read
discussion
it?
of the policy.
Do we, you know, there's different things that you're asking here.
How about if
Mr.
we do this?
Shapinsky's asking if we should look at it, but nobody has a copy of it right now.
No, we all have it at home.
So we
Yeah,
all have it at
it's
home.
nice.
So I think it's a thing that it should be stated. People should have copies of it in the audience.
We weren't
And then we
asking
should.
for a vote.
How about if we do
Excuse
this,
me,
Carmen?
but-
Let me cut it.
Next work session agenda.
All the board members will be tasked with reviewing it. The audience can come in and get copies from Mr. Weir. If they have any suggestions to us, if we have any suggestions, please get them to Mrs. Leahy, and we'll discuss them at the next meeting if anybody has
Workshop.
significant changes to that policy. Is that okay?
On the
Can I
work-
ask
I
Mr.
would-
workshop agenda?
I have a problem
May's
with
work
that,
session.
because I think Mr. Potash has to be part of this,
We have an
since
opinion.
there are several laws about the freedom of speech. So
They should be
to
there.
discuss it at a work session
the
without
question,
Mr. Potash is,
the question that was presented this evening, do we as a board, which the gentleman asked us to address, have a right to prohibit the distribution of political literature in our school facilities were the same or being used by community organizations. And it's my understanding that he objected to the fact that two things. Number one, the handing out of political literature, and do we have the right to prohibit that by as a matter of policy? And the other one, why should he be subjected to abuse by members attending an organization where he attended? Now, those two questions I can answer, and I've answered them this evening. The last time we reviewed the policy of this board was only about a year ago, when the issue was whether the taxpayers group had the right to hand out literature at our meetings. It was 2 years ago, I'm sorry, to hand out literature at our meetings. At that time, I was asked to research that, and I handed down an opinion. They absolutely had the right to do so, but they couldn't interfere with ingress or egress at our meetings, that we could put a table out there where the literature could be left at the entrance to the meeting where that material could be picked up. That was my opinion then. I was also asked, did anybody have a right, during the course of our discussions right here, which was our meeting, did anybody have a right to interrupt our meeting and come out and hand out things during our meeting, or to come up to the board and present petitions of such while the conduct of our meeting was going on? And we passed a rule at that particular time. We reviewed this issue, and we indicated that it was appropriate, not during the meeting, to come up and disrupt the meeting, but obviously anybody had a right to come in and hand the board at an appropriate time, either before or at a time that they were asked to present that petition. And that was the last time that we reviewed that particular issue when it dealt with political issues. We have been reviewing the religious issues over a period of time. The handing out in the classroom of material by various community groups, whether they be Boy Scouts, whether they be the churches, whether they be church groups. We addressed all that over a period of the last 5 or 6 years. Every year.
We'll do that.
Mr.
Thank you.
Bowman, Mr. Bowman, I have a question of clarification, Mr. Shapinsky. One of the things that I heard him say that I didn't hear Mr. Potash address was the fact that a non-political group was handing out an endorsement, and that in and of itself was a violation of the Pennsylvania election codes.
Well, he can enforce that. It is not up to us to enforce it.
No, that was his question.
We aren't sanctioning
But
it.
we are sanctioning it.
Why are we sanctioning it? We are
By
just
allowing
giving,
them
we are
to do
making
an
our
illegal
facility.
activity?
No, absolutely not.
Distributed during the school
Absolutely.
organization.
We are not sanctioning it. We have no control when an organization, a community organization comes in and uses our facilities, and somebody in that organization decides on its own to hand out material.
Mr. Potash, can I ask you this so that we have an idea of where if there's any leeway at all here? You spoke about being able to monitor the times that a group could be distributing its literature that would be deemed appropriate versus inappropriate because of the conducting of business. What I recall from before, up until this recent policy, we would have to certainly respect the free speech rights for the distribution of literature outside on the sidewalks, but we did not necessarily have to allow entrance into the school.
No, we said that they could not prevent, by the handing out of literature, the free ingress and egress to the building. We never said that a person did not have the right to hand out literature in the building. The only issue that we addressed, if you will look at that policy, there are certain prohibitions. They're very simply stated, which is the prohibition of or preventing individuals from somehow creating a disturbance or preventing ingress or egress into these meetings. And that issue was discussed when a particular group wanted to hand out material right at the entrance of these doors, and we provided a table for them to put the stuff, a table different than table where we put our own agendas, so people wouldn't be confused with the fact that somehow or some way we were supporting the literature that was being handed out. So we created a separate table for the handing out of our own literature, and we allowed whatever group to distribute the material to have a place where they could distribute it.
Well, let me ask you, if more organizations were to decide to demonstrate the same poor taste as a few of our community groups that have decided that science fairs and the hard labor of our volunteers is a perfect opportunity to peddle their wares, what would we do if pro-life, pro-choice, Our state reps, well, I don't think they would dare. They know that wouldn't be very politically smart of them. But all the other political groups were to come in and decide, hey, this is wonderful. Look at this, 700 parents in one quick grab. And just think, I don't even have to send out notices. I don't have to be the one to promote the group, the night, the place, the time. It's all covered through a home and school organized function. So you can just jump on their bandwagon and their work. What would we do then? Would we have to make room for 20 groups or 30 or 50 if they were to show up? Or would you be able to then say that it definitely is having a negative effect?
The content of what goes on in a group that rents our facility is not our business. Unless it's going to somehow cause a civil disturbance or a disruption
I'm not
of
talking
the
about
community. Now, let me answer what we're saying. You raise certain issues that we have no right to interfere with the community groups. If a particularly religious group wants to have an organization and rent our facilities,
Absolutely.
we have no right to prevent that.
Absolutely, I
All
agree.
right, now, we do have a right, and we have a policy that addresses the distribution of literature during the school day in our school facilities. And we spent a lot of time working that out. But what takes place beyond the school day when we rent our facilities, that is up to the particular groups, whatever the content, whatever their purpose of their meetings are. The one thing we can prohibit, though, is when we conduct a meeting right here this evening, is that the distribution of material, which can take place outside there, cannot take place that will, in the meeting, which would somehow or some way disrupt our meeting. And the issue with the petitions was, we once had a meeting, and people would come up with a stack of petitions in the middle of our meeting and dump them at the president's desk. And the question was presented, did they have a right to do so during the course of our meeting? And we addressed that issue. So when we regulated where preventing the ingress and egress into this facility, we also established a rule. There was an appropriate time when to present the papers to the board here at the meeting.
I didn't have any disagreement with rentals. I believe anyone should be able to rent the room, and then therefore, certainly it would be used for a specific purpose that the person intended to involve in. But thank you, Charlie.
I have a very great difficulty when I don't have the policy in front of me, except to rely on my memory. Basically here, I wasn't prepared for this issue to come up. And if I was told that it was going to come up, I would have been perhaps with the policy here. But if I have to rely on my memory, and I have a pretty good one, I can tell you what has transpired over the last 5 or 6 years.
Charlie, let's put a halt to this now. We have a tasking to review it. The public can come in and get a copy of it. And any suggestions that you have to that, we'll consider. Okay, we'll continue with the audience of citizens now. Dr. Thomas.
I'm Judith Thomas from Hatfield Township. I wasn't prepared to speak tonight, but I feel that what I want to say is relevant to Mr. Sherpinski's request, and I agree with him 100%. I don't think anybody should be abused on school premises, or anybody in this school district should be ever abused because this person is speaking their mind or because this person is not agreeing with somebody's opinion. And I think this is relevant to every single group and every single organization in the school district. I'm going to very quickly, hopefully, recall a very unpleasant event, which I don't know how many people remember, which took place last fall at the Penfield Middle School. This was a meeting which was advertised in the newspaper on the heels of the teacher's strike. It was a call for parents to come together and have a discussion with area politicians, settling the strike, discussing the school district situation. This was my first experience with local politics, and this is why I have been coming to school board meetings. I totally innocently walked in there, believing that this was a parent group discussing what is happening. It was, in fact, a meeting organized by the North Penn Taxpayers Association, up at the panel were 9 area politicians and 2 people from the taxpayers associations who were running the meeting. One was Mrs. Cherise Krieger, who is currently running to be elected for school board member and was endorsed by the Republican Party, and it was John Scully, who was a parent at A.M. Cobb School. We don't know what happened to him. There were very few parents who were just parents, which I didn't know, and I was totally shocked at the tone of the meeting, at the tone of the introduction by Mr. Scully and Mrs. Krieger, which was basically a vicious attack on the teachers. It was foul language, and it was hate pouring out from every sentence. I listened to it for about 10 minutes, and I was ready to leave. And then I waited until every politician spoke, and the same tone of voice continued again. Then I jumped up and asked them to please stop talking like this, because this is embarrassing. This is not representing the community in front of the politicians. I was almost shut down, literally, by the numerous members in the audience who were all taxpayers. I didn't know it. I was totally naive. I didn't know who was there. And then, but I had my say. Then Cherise Krieger personally attacked a 17-year-old high school student who was trying to ask for some human common decency from the members of this panel. This was abuse. It was not publicized. There were no television cameras.
Dr.
It wasn't a
Thomas,
school
could you
board.
wrap it up and keep it
I'm
generic
wrapping it up.
instead of
Thank
talking
you.
specific
yes,
people?
I agree. Thank you. It wasn't a political meeting, but yet when the possibility of changing Act 88, which is a law on the teacher's strike, was brought up, and the different politicians mentioned that all representatives have to agree in it, and in certain counties this would be impossible, one of the audience members kept on jumping up and said, aha, that person is a Democrat. So this was a rally against Democrats. This was a parent meeting on school premises, and everybody who didn't agree with the 90% taxpayers there was booed and technically intimidated and shooed out of the room. This was totally swept under the rug. So I agree, nobody should be subjected. Mr. Sherpinski has a valid claim. I'm sorry that he felt uncomfortable yesterday, and so did I, and the numerous other people last fall, and both events were wrong. Let's change it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Linda Abram from Upper Gwinnett Township, and I too was unprepared to speak tonight, but I feel compelled to do so. I'm concerned about what is being said tonight and what has been said tonight about volunteer groups in our district, parent volunteer groups. I am a homeschool president. I will be proud to say that. I volunteered at my children's school for 6 years, and I intend to do it hopefully for another 7 while they're in elementary school and hopefully while they continue in the upper grades. We are all here to enhance our children's education, and I feel that we have every right to enhance our parents' knowledge of what is going on in this district. I don't feel that any of us are here to criticize another group's ideas, but by the same token, I think if literature is available for people to pick up, if they choose to do that, they can. If they don't have to, and no one is making them do that. I think that at this point in time, it's interesting that we have this conversation at every election. Please realize that our volunteers and our parents need to be supported and not to be limited in what we do. We are trying our best to abide by the policies, and I will tell you briefly what I have done. I did a flyer from my home and school to send out to our parents. It was a nonpartisan flyer encouraging parents to register to vote and to vote in May. And I gave it to my building principal, who gave it to Mr. Weir, who discussed it with Dr. Persing, and it was given back to me, and it was said, We really don't think you should send this out to the parents, because if you wanted to do this, and another group could come in and send it out to the parent group. And I abided by that. I did not require a further explanation. I understood clearly what was being said to me. It's available in my building if anybody wants to see it, but I am not forcing anybody to read it. This is important, that we allow each other to understand one another's different views and not be so worried about the legal ramifications of home and school meetings and coordinating council meetings. I'm very worried about what's happening. Thank you.
Ms. Crawford?
Good evening. I'm Eileen Crawford of Upper Gwynedd. I am very proud to say to each of you, although most of you probably know, that I am the editor of the network Newswire, which is really what's being discussed here. I am a very proud parent in the school district, and I am a very lucky parent in that I have come to know many hundreds of other parents who care enough about their schools to volunteer their time in them, and who care enough about their schools to attempt to inform other parents of what is going on in the school district. It is shocking to me that individuals are intimidated by other people's exercising their freedom of speech and doing it in a tasteful, respectful manner. We were careful before we ever entered one school building. We called the school district. We explained to the district what we would like to do, that we had information we felt was important to be received by the community, since clearly the community was being misled in other forums. And we asked, what were the guidelines? What were the rules? We have assured people every step of the way that we are more than respectful of buildings, of principals, of parents, and most of all, of students. It is amazing to me that there are board members here who are threatened by that. I'm not surprised that Mr. Sherpinski and the Taxpayers Association is threatened by that. I find it humorous that he is so threatened by the network Newswire, and yet his group has lifted one page word for word from ours and published it under his own banner. So clearly, plagiarism laws don't seem to bother him. But what I will say is that perhaps the community is tired of intimidation. And perhaps parents are talking to each other because they need each other, and they need help getting through the crisis that this district has found itself in. And I, for one, applaud that, and I hope every single parent in this district watches this videotape and listens to what every single person has said up here. Many of you snickered at Mary Martha Whitworth's comments. You thought this couldn't happen in this district. But what we've seen transpire at this meeting tonight is evidence that she may be right on target. So I suggest to each and every one of you that we do at least attempt to respect the rights of other people, to express themselves respectfully and kindly and generously, and the parents I know of who have been working on this program have done so with concern for their students' futures, and I applaud each and every one of them. They're doing the right thing, and I hope we all just keep right on doing it, and I would strongly suggest that this board not let itself be intimidated. Certainly it's good to review this process, because then we will see who believes in freedom of speech. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Allen, and I am the president of the Coordinating Council. I felt it necessary to get up tonight because there has been discussion over the past months about maybe what the intentions of Coordinating Council have been of late. And for those in the audience and those in the community who are not aware of what our group is all about, this group was formed, and I'm going to guess Ralph might even be able to confirm this for me because he was a former member many years ago. It was formed approximately 12 years ago. And my understanding is that it was a group that band together because our district was growing, and parents felt a need to get together on a monthly basis and discuss issues of things that went on in the district, whether it be curricular related or even discussion about assemblies that were being held in the schools. Obviously, a lot of parents felt it was a worthwhile group, there was a lot of value in it, or they would not have continued. Because with the busy schedules that we have nowadays, just to make our home school meetings, let alone another coordinating council meeting every month, is a difficult venture for the family. Therefore, I would like to say up front, this is not, any of my comments are not to be taken as a defensive or hopefully offensive comments, but again, I have heard comments all year long about the means of coordinating council, what our intentions are, and I did want to make some clarifications. For instance, I'll give an example. Last night, our meeting ended approximately 9:45. It adjourned about 9:45. The meeting begins at 7:30. I would say the first hour and a half was devoted to an update on the multicultural task force that was done in 1990, and it brought us up to date on where the district is right now in the multicultural efforts and where it is going. That took an hour and a half of our meeting. That was followed up by the sharing process of some minor things. We always have level reports. And at the very end, I will say there was a high school level report. Now, there was one or two parents who had attended the high school meeting, and in all honesty, it was just a depiction of some things that Dr. Bourne stated about maybe the staffing for next year, the classroom spacing with an additional 300 students. Obviously, these are all changes that are going to be taking place, and he shared that at a PTSAO meeting. This was part of a level high school report, nothing more than that. I will admit there has been times where we do get off in tangents. We are all very concerned. The district is going in a lot of directions right now. I don't need to stand here and say the trouble that we're all in. Parents are very concerned, and it's not unlike any parent at any meeting to sit there and voice some real specific concerns they have. I have to say, and this part will be defensive, nobody there pointed a finger at any one individual in that group. We all run the risk when we enter a room that we are not all of like thinking. I'm sure we all know nobody here, everybody in this room doesn't think alike. And I can attend any homeschool meeting and we all differ on many opinions. And that's what community groups are all about. I can't say that we continued this discussion in any great length. And it has always been stated, and I know twice I said it last night, we as coordinating council are not endorsing or condoning any individual or any group. We all have some serious concerns about the upcoming election, but let's leave it at that. And I know at least one person who spoke herself said the very same thing. She said, I am a parent, I am concerned, I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sharing this because not everybody has the opportunity to attend all the meetings that I can attend, and I want you to know what's going on out there. It was a sharing process, and that's what coordinating council's for. And to eliminate that part of our meeting would be an abuse of what we're all about. I just felt it necessary. There's been things that have been said in the past, things that have been said publicly here at a board meeting. I've seen my name mentioned before. I never responded before because I felt that I would be creating a human dartboard out of myself. Because the way things go nowadays, you defend yourself, and the next thing you know, your name's in sound off for 2 weeks. That's the way it is. Coordinating council is a valuable group. I've been a member for 8 years. I will continue to be a member. I think it's a necessity in our school district, especially right now. I think it's a need, and I would welcome anybody if you want to attend any of our meetings. Please feel free. There's nothing closed. The only part that you can't attend is when we vote, and we are limited space because we are in the IMCs, but please don't have a misunderstanding of what our group is about. We are not a political activist group. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Torrens Adekal. I'm a resident of Thomaston Township, and I'm also a senior at North Penn High School. I'm not going to speak to you tonight about the issue of whether we're allowed to speak freely at school events or school-sponsored events or school property, because I mean, in all honesty, I don't think it matters how many people get up here and testify to how legal it is, how rational it is, how American it is, how constitutional it is, or whatever, because I think the gentleman did accomplish his purpose, which was to have people, when they go to a meeting next time, say, maybe I shouldn't do this. And well, there's not much we can do about that. Instead, what I'd like to talk to you about today is $30,000. $30,000 is a lot of money. And what I'm referring to is the money which I'm under my understanding is the money which is requested from businesses in the area to support a Republican committee endorsed ticket. I don't know if I'm mistaken on this, but I think that's the understanding.
Mr. Bowman, this is not the business of the board.
I'm sorry, do you have something to say?
Excuse me, there was no request for donations by the school board, by the board itself. The board itself was not involved as this political body.
I understand that.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what I'm referring to
Making a
is
statement.
the editorial in the reporter which mentioned $30,000 was being requested by, I don't know who, but to support the Republican committee endorsed candidates. These extremist candidates, as I like to term. Now, what it bothers me that we need $30,000 in a school board election, first of all. But that's not what bothers me the most. What bothers me the most is this is just bad business. I came up before and received a proclamation for my achievements in decathlon. One of my achievements has been to set a regional and state record in economics. So please don't dismiss what I say as a high school student who doesn't know what he's talking about. One of the biggest investments of almost every American in the country, the majority of middle-class Americans, is their house. Your value is most determined by the value of your house. And the value of your house is most determined by the amount people are willing to pay to come into the district. The more people who want to move into your district, the more your house is going to be worth. Now, I hear a lot about taxes and how taxes determine property values and how counting mills and multiplying times 5.73, whatever. But the point is, that's not what people look at first. The majority of people who buy houses are young families who have children who are going to raise, hopefully to live in a district for 13 years as I did in North Penn. And so what they're going to look at first is the quality of education. Now, sacrificing education to save 0.7 mils or 700 mils, I don't care if you're saving 1,000 mils. This is not good. This is not good for you as a person. Your people won't want to buy your house. A friend of my mother's and a realtor stated that there are people who don't want to move into North Penn. And this is something I witnessed myself. I don't want to move into North Penn. I don't want to live here anymore. And the reason I attribute this to is a rising, an increase in negativism in this region, in this district. I mean, every single board meeting I come to, there's people yelling across the table at each other, and it's always about $1,000, $800 for a band. What's $800 in a $130 million budget or $100 million budget? What is this about? I mean, I'm sorry. And then what it comes down to is once people aren't willing to move into the region, and your houses are worth less, your standard of living goes down. People won't go to business, won't want to transfer to these businesses, and these businesses are the ones that are going to lose the money ultimately. The people who stay in the district and own the houses now, and the businesses. This is what frightens me. And I just think that this is something that people have to think about. If you don't understand what I'm saying, that's fine. If I didn't make myself clear, that's fine. Go think about it. Just go home, ask your accountant, go look it up, call someone you know that knows something about economics and see what I'm talking about, see if what I'm talking about makes sense. And if it doesn't, then you can laugh at me as you have Ms. Vicky Sher. And if it does make sense to you, then I think that it's something people have to realize. I think it's time people look at the economic impact of so-called fiscal conservatism. Thank you.
I'm Bill Taylor from Lansdale. I had two ideas in my head all day before this meeting, and I thought I wouldn't need to use them. But I would use them just to add them to what the young gentleman ahead of me said. He was wrong in one respect. If you are here because of money, you're in the wrong place. And I personally will feel much better about my future and the future of my child and this community when we hear a little more about the love of education and learning and a little less about money. What's the ratio right now?
We're going to take a 5-minute break to change the tapes. Please be back on time and we'll start. Council wants to make a comment. Oh, jeez, okay. I really want to get on with the business tonight, folks, so if we can make it brief.
Sorry for taking up
That's
your
okay.
time.
No, do it. It's just that...
I just wanted to say I was very impressed with the guidance program that was presented last week.
Sir, would you give your name and...
I'm sorry, my name is Jeff Allison from Lansdale. I was very impressed with the guidance program that was presented last week. I was more impressed with the method that the committee followed in determining what to present. They looked at the candidate programs and decided that these fell short of the needs and desires of the students and community. Instead, they chose to define their own program, which required a tremendous amount of effort on their parts, and they should all be commended for that. They felt that the best way to fit the needs of the students was to come up with a program designed for our students that met the goals of our community. And it's a very, very impressive program. I think they should design one for the board.
I'll second that. See two hands, one of them, come on up. First one, whoever's the first one there.
Good evening, I'm Nancy Alfred Sisson. I live in Township Township. I want to raise the issue of the proposed calendars for 1995 and 96.
Speak up or...
Okay. I'm concerned with both the proposed calendars for the 1995-96 school year. The second calendar, which includes the Jewish holiday of Rosh Hashanah, includes only 2 days for parent-teacher conferences and/or in-services. As a parent of 2 children at the elementary level, I greatly value the 15 minutes I spend once or twice a year in formal discussion with my child's teacher. I fail to see how a teacher with 28 students can see all the parents within one school day. If they choose to conference with parents, how can they possibly in-service to keep up with current curriculum and teaching methods? The first calendar, which includes 2 additional days for in-service, excludes Rosh Hashanah. I would be greatly disturbed to find the in-servicing of teachers, which benefits all students, would occur at the expense of the Jewish families in our community. Surely the board can choose a calendar where both the quality of education and the interests of the Jewish community can continue to be met. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Davis. I'm from Tomenson. I promise not to take up more than a minute of your time. I have to express my concern over the rift in this district that's being formed. As Ms. Whitworth said before, I see an extremist group coming in, but even without that, I see such turmoil in this district that it's hurting this district. It is shameful to this district to have this. I was sitting in the audience and I was listening to people around me who were either snickering or making little childish comments. And these are people who are adults. I'm a 16-year-old girl, and I know what respect is. When one of the people who was speaking up here said something, one of the people around me said something to the effect that what is he or she, I'm not going to specify, a teacher, like it was something horrible. He said this in a derogatory fashion, that it was something that was so horrible. Now, this person that was speaking obviously had different views than the person sitting down, but that's no reason to show disrespect. If you show disrespect to a teacher like that, you show disrespect to the district. If you show disrespect to the district, I would like to know why that person, how that person justifies that he or she got up here and spoke concerning this district. It's not fair for people to express their views that will hurt people. Everybody's entitled to their own views, but if you're going to say something that hurts somebody else, that's not right. That's indecent. That's just something that's making this district have shame. And as people said before, people aren't going to want to come here. People are going to want to stay away because of the turmoil and the things that are being caused by some things that people in this district are saying. I also want to just comment on what people were saying about the coordinating council. I myself know what happened at the coordinating council, and I must say that stating the facts is not stating your opinion. If you state the facts, now maybe they were political facts, but if that's what happened, that's what happened. That is not stating your opinion. That is not something that deserves to be attacked. It's something that's true fact, and if people can't accept the facts without getting offended, then that's their problem, and they shouldn't have a problem with that. That's basically all I have to say.
Good. Thanks, Jennifer. Anyone else? Mr. Bailey, you've already talked. Yes, ma'am?
My name is Nancy DeLucia. I'm from Montgomery Township, and I will keep this short. I'm a proud member of the North Penn Network for Educational Excellence. And tonight I feel attacked, but I will not feel intimidated. I must say that I'm glad I am an American because I know that my freedom of speech is a constitutional right that this board cannot regulate away during political seasons. I am a parent who has spent many evenings out in the schools trying to raise the consciousness of other parents as to what's going on in the district. I am not out there in poor taste peddling my wares.
I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I'm not happy about what's been said here tonight. I agree that no one should be attacked in any meeting if that's what happened, but as a person who has manned a table outside a school function, I have to say that the group that I'm connected with, the NPNEE, does not approach people with literature. People have to approach us. Our literature is laid on a table, in a corner, out of the way of any entrance or exit to any school function. When taxpayers are handing out their information, and they do hand it out, it is not just laid on a table, I courteously take one, and I also read it. I don't always have time to read it in the meeting, but I do take it home, and I look at it. I do not chuck it in the garbage. I don't appreciate being called on the telephone, on an unlisted phone number, to answer a survey by a conservative group who would not tell me the purpose of the survey or where the results would be presented. My phone number is unlisted except in the school directory, and I don't appreciate anyone using that, which is for the parent use only, to be given to any survey group, especially when the purpose of the survey and the results of it are not told to me when asked. Thank you.
My name is Eileen McMullen. I'm from Lansdale, and I just want to say I'm proud to say I'm not associated with any special interest group because when I come to these meetings, I'm just embarrassed for all of you. How many times has the word extremist been bandied about today? I mean, since when did a difference of opinion mean you're an extremist? Nothing gets done in these meetings. Everybody is so busy stating their opinion, and I can go like this over the different groups because I know who's going to clap. I mean, this is supposed to be constructive. We get information from the school board. We give them information. I think the petty bickering has to stop, and it's a time we agree to disagree and try and respectfully work with each other for solutions in the best interest of everybody. Thank you.
Bud Graziano from Tolmanson. I have to agree with that last speaker. Use of the word extremists and words like that. What's interesting is that terrible incident that happened in Oklahoma City yesterday. when President Clinton had a press conference in the afternoon, he started off by talking about extremists and innocent children. It seems the day before that he was saying the same thing about Republicans. And I felt that it must be the Republicans that did this terrible thing in Oklahoma City. And it's a perfect example of what she was saying, that the words we use are so important that we shouldn't be wasting them, and we shouldn't be using them inappropriately. We're always going to have rhetoric. We're going to have the political climate. I would hope, though, that we keep the name calling to an absolute minimum, in fact, zero. Mr. Bowman, generally at the beginning of every meeting, you admonish people to make their comments general, not to attack anybody. I don't recall you saying that this meeting. Maybe you did. I would hope that you would enforce that better than you have tonight, because tonight there's been an awful lot of name calling of specific individuals, and I don't think it's fair to anyone, and I would hope you would keep that down to a minimum.
Try to do better. Anyone else? Mr. Bailey, you've already talked. No, sir, you've already talked. Anyone else? Thank you. Okay, we'll head on to the superintendent's report. We have a motion on the table. We have a motion that's been tabled on the VOTEC budget. Is there any discussion about that motion? It's already been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, Dr. Person, if you would, please.
Your first item of business is we recommend to you the approval of Phase 2 recommendations of the Guidance Review Committee. This was presented in a great deal of coverage last time by Dr. Clark and the committee. I would move recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mingle, second by White. Any questions? I'd like to comment again for those folks to Judy Clark and all of her team. Great job on all that. Thank you. Once again.
You have before you a approval.
We have to vote on this one.
A minor problem.
Yeah, minor. We need to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You're anticipating the time.
I would anticipate nothing else from this board. I recommend approval of 1995 summer school program. You have that as an information background. It's usually routine, and I hesitate to say that, but it usually is routine, and I recommend approval.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Reckham, second by Burkowski. Any questions about the summer school program? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The last time we met, Tuesday, we had a discussion on the calendar. We have given you two proposed calendars, or suggesting to you that you look at number 1 and number 2. If you intend to modify either one of them, please do so, but we would like to have you approve calendar for the evening.
Let's discuss it first, and then we can make a motion on either one of the calendars that we like.
Just need a clarification that there were, on calendar number 2, there are only 2 in-service days listed, at least in print. Was there an intention that there were 2 other in-service days that were inadvertently left off this calendar?
Yes, if there were any in-service days, it was my understanding, and Ken, please help me or any member of the cabinet, that was going to be at the end of the school year. Is that correct, or is there someplace else we should have placed that?
That's correct.
Or the beginning.
So they would occur after the last day for students, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? If not, I'll venture that after seeing both of them, I'd like to propose a third calendar. I know you don't want to hear this, but I would like to see school calendar 1 be used with Rosh Hashanah on the 25th of September as a holiday, so that the in-service days that are on calendar 1 be used, basically drops the last day of students to June 12th. I know that you might not want to hear that, but if the members of the Jewish community feel that that's the most important holiday, then we should probably do that
Dick, I agree in that I don't like putting in service days
at the end.
at the end of the year. I kind of question their value at that point in time.
I agree. So I would, and just to clarify, November 7th is an election day, so that the schools will be closed for the election, so that's why we're going to do it that way. Otherwise, we're trying to move those to being on a Friday or a Monday, is that correct? You know, I'd like to hear some discussion on which you favor, which one we should vote for.
I'll restate again, Dick, I like anything that gets us out of having school in June.
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's obviously, with one, it adds another day because of Rosh Hashanah. We traditionally have not been off for Rosh Hashanah, is that correct?
That is correct.
And we have been off for Yom Kippur.
That is correct.
That's up to the board, I'm just making a suggestion.
Well, Mr. Bowman,
What do you favor?
I mean, your proposal number 3 it would certainly be acceptable to me.
Anyone else, hear from everyone else, what do you want? And then we'll nominate one, 1, 2, or 3?
4.
I'm easy on any of them.
Easy on any of them, okay? Terry?
Shall we vote on 3 first?
You want a 4?
Give us a 4th, if you have something else, then give it to us.
Put the in-service days in front of the beginning of school, then the kids get the whole full year benefit of what the teachers are learning.
You can't have conferences though.
Before school?
Yeah, the in-service.
Some of them are conferences, and some of them will be materials that haven't developed yet to present in September. Typically, they're developing some of that stuff in the fall for the.
If I read this correctly, there is an in-service on the 15th, 16th, which does not have a parents' conference too, correct? And then November 7th is or parents' conference, and April 23rd says parents' conference. So really, there's only one in-service that isn't a split in-service, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
I'd like to go with number 3 if possible.
What about it as part of number 3, maybe even moving to take into consideration, moving the 15th of February in-service day back up to the beginning of the year, and maybe starting, having the 6th be an in-service day and the first day of school be the 7th. That doesn't extend the calendar at all, and it still gives you a 4-day weekend over President's holiday.
Dick, I think that 15th, 16th in service is wrapped around a reporting period, and I believe that that's what that's about.
But that's in service, it's not for parenting, so why would that matter if it's a reporting period or not?
I thought there was some.
I mean, we don't have to necessarily have exactly 1/4 of the school year in every grading period. We can slide a couple days here and there, right? I would think.
Can I just suggest something?
Sure.
I think part of the problem with putting it earlier in the year like that at the beginning, it certainly puts a lot of pressure on making that a meaningful day. And under the circumstances where we haven't had a couple directors, where we have nobody that's been actively involved in trying to plan all that's a big deal to plan those days. And I think to put it at the beginning of next September, I don't know where the planning time would come from or who the planners would be to do that.
You know, given that we don't have any staff development.
The other part of that, which is probably not official, is that if you put that in-service day right at the beginning, there are a lot of teachers who still come in voluntarily to get set up for the beginning of the year. That would be one less day they would have, and that's usually a voluntary effort. They're getting their classrooms ready for the beginning of class, and that's usually a voluntary effort.
But that's usually before the.
In the beginning of the school year is what I'm talking about.
Well, but we're moving the days for students out more, so it doesn't, we're just taking it from the middle of the year and moving it to the beginning. But that, you know, Mr. Schmidt makes a good point, and if we don't, since we don't have any staff developers right now, we're going back to the classroom, and Susan no longer with us, why we really don't have a staff at the end of the year to plan that over the summer and have it ready in the fall to do that. So
Our directors were totally involved with those in-service days, so that's where the leadership would be coming from for the in-service days.
I think your calendar number 3 is the best alternative.
Okay.
Combination.
Any,
How about if we go for?
Make a
I
motion.
put a motion on the floor to enact calendar 3 as described.
Second.
okay, Mr. Reckcamp has motion number 3, and Ms. Leahy has seconded. Any other discussion on calendar number 3? Dr. Percy, do you understand what number 3 is?
I do not.
It is calendar 1
I love it.
with Rosh
You just tell me
Hashanah.
where you want the day that you're gonna make up for Rosh Hashanah, and I'll be clear.
That's
The
gonna be the
12th.
12th then. It's gonna be the-
12th of
June
June.
12th.
12th of June, last day.
Right, it's gonna
Okay,
move
now I
out one day,
understand.
and then that'll drop off snow days and et cetera, everything. Ken got it.
We understand.
Okay.
He'll sign.
Any other
This I understand.
questions, concerns, comments?
Only that Tom Persing wasn't here when we went through 700 of them the last time we were doing this calendar.
So I should consider myself lucky.
Yeah.
Maybe 7 or 8.
He has
You
a
only-
right to be
You only have
confused.
3, Tom. This is easy.
This one's easy.
If we keep going, we're liable to get down to 1.
And we didn't have options on there for what ifs if it snows or not. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, calendar number 3 is a pass.
All right, we have next recommend that we approval to submit a proposal to the Merck Institute for Science Education to fund 1995-96 science activities in grades K to 8. I think this is an ongoing program, and I think Mr. White should speak to that as a board member if you thought it was necessary.
You know,
Is that-
David, he's a quiet person.
I'm just willing to ask any questions. Again, this is always a process.
Can we have a motion first before we have any discussion or comment?
Second.
Moved by Reckcamp, second by Shear. Now, are there any questions or comments?
When are we going to see the high school program submitted?
With the Merck Science Program, I think, I can't speak to that directly, that this has been, the focus of this entire program has been K through 8 until all teachers have been indoctrinated and the program reaches the entire K through 8 curriculum. I don't believe that there is a time frame attached to moving this into the high school.
As a matter of fact, this is part also of a program which is going to be funded by the National Science Foundation. And in that, it's a 5-year program. So it will be continuing for 5 years, at least with emphasis on K to 8.
So where are we moving in the high school level?
Well, we still have to receive the report from the Science Curriculum Review Committee, and I believe that they'll address that at that time. I mean, it's an overall curriculum review, K through 12. This is just funding for the programs that the Merck Institute focuses on.
I'll state my concerns that I stated all along, that the high school level is not being addressed, and you have hands-on, and these children are eventually going to get to the high school, and they will not have hands-on. So that is my concern, and hopefully we'll be addressing it.
But wasn't the Merck Science grant just K through 8? It never did include 9 to 12, did it?
At this point, that is the focus of the
That was the
Merck
focus.
Science Foundation, yes.
It's been, that's all we can expect from them at this point.
The rest is on us. And the committee will be, I'm sure, reporting on that.
The foundation itself has 2 focuses, and it is at the elementary level. The other focus that it has is at the collegiate level to change the way that teachers are actually taught. So they have a dual focus at this point.
But it's detached from the Merck Institute.
And insofar as hands-on, one should understand that most science taught K through 6 predominantly in the United States is really theoretical and book science. And this is an attempt of one of 4 school districts in the United States to receive the benefit of this Merck Science Institute, which of course is highly commendable. But it's an attempt to really refocus science education on a hands-on basis. Whereas we do have, in 8th grade through 12, we do have laboratory science, which we usually do not have, or haven't in the past, K through 6. That's not in any way to take away from what Mrs. Leahy's comments are. This actually should be articulated. There's no doubt about that. But this is the primary emphasis at this time.
Dr. Persing, I think it's important to suggest to let the board know too that there's a twofold commitment here in terms of that Merck foundation. One certainly is Merck, and the second is the commitment that our teachers have to make to that. In line with that, Merck has asked that this summer begin the first of 3 summers where teachers will be in service for 3 solid weeks. We have over 50 teachers who have volunteered to do that. Now, when I say volunteered, I don't want to mislead you. They will get a stipend from Merck. Merck will pay each one of those people $2,000 for those 3 weeks. But over 50-some teachers have volunteered to participate in that. That commitment means that they will go to all 3 weeks, and they will do that for each of the next 3 summers. It also requires that they be in service during the regular school year a number of different days as well. It's a significant contribution, I think, on the part of both the Merck Foundation as well as the teachers.
And the school district itself, because it's a match funding. And picking up on what Mr. Schmidt said, is that we're talking about teachers during the year also working Fridays and Saturdays, so that you should understand that, in addition to some other pull-out programs. Also, we went around, that is Donna Brown, the supervisor, Dave Decker, the math supervisor, because Merck is now getting into math and technology in addition to that. And we went to each of the elementary schools and made presentations, and for the most part, 90% plus, the teachers were very, very enthused. And at this time, I'd like to say something about teachers. I've been at the high school and had a meeting with them for about 2 hours and addressed some of their concerns at the high school. And if you ever have been a high school principal or superintendent and you go to a meeting after school with high school teachers from 2:30 to 4:30 and they're voluntarily there, they have something to say to you. I want you as a public to know, and this board to know, that I fully appreciate the efforts of these teachers. And I think it's time that we take and recognize that they're doing a darn good professional job, and they should be complimented, not castigated. So I, for one, make sure that they know, and I want you to know, as a board and as a community, that I champion the teachers, and I respect what they do, and I'm sure you do too, but I think that needs to be said at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Persing. All those in favor of the motion on the floor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, I apologize there, Mr. President. I'm getting sort of, there's an influence of all the speakers and it's starting to carry over. All right, we have next. We have a next is an obvious one. Dr. Westcott has been taking over due to the tragic death of Mr. Schickling, and this is retroactive to ratify for the board. We ask your recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Reckamp, second by Whites. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
There's an in-service course offering in the spring of '95 as listed. If you've had a chance to look at that, and if you don't have any questions, I would recommend approval.
Moved by Reckamp,
Second.
second by Whites. Any questions?
Question.
Yeah.
Is Claris Works just for Macintosh, Apple, whatever?
Runs on both.
Is that
Runs
the
on
school
DOS and
district?
Macintosh.
Okay.
Is that the school district choice of word processing programs?
I thought it was
I don't know that.
I thought it was WordPerfect.
Well, you know, I mean, it seems like that the world is going to open, Windows and open Windows and Word for Windows as a word processing, or WordPerfect for Windows. And now we're teaching Claris Works, and I don't,
I honestly, I can't speak definitively on Claris Works as opposed to what the district uses as its word processing, which is WordPerfect. But those are the systems that are running on many of the labs, not all of the labs, the computer labs.
Claris Works is running on our computer labs?
That's a combination of programs, word processor, spreadsheet, database.
This Claris Works word processing.
It's not just a word processor. Claris Works is multiple programs. Word processor, spreadsheet, and database.
What's the difference between Claris Works and Microsoft Works? You have MS Works.
Competing products. Same level
Because
of.
in MS Works, that word processing program is real close to Word. It's not far off at all.
And
They're just
one step
competing
further,
products.
Microsoft Office is a combination of a spreadsheet, a database, a word processing
But
program.
at a much higher, level.
Well, this says they're gonna just learn the features of the word processing component of Claris Works. And, you know, it seems like we have an archaic system here, and we're gonna teach people how to use it that probably technology-wise, we shouldn't be even using. Of course, we're still in the 70s.
I mean, there are many people here that are looking at me for an answer. I mean, I've been, I'm not, no. All I'd like to repeat, as I've done many, many times, is that we do need a strategic plan for technology in this district to tie it together, and I think that finally, as a board, we've come to that realization and are putting that plan in motion with the suggestions that we'll have at budget time for personnel in this district. But we have made a lot of purchases over the course of 10 years. We have a lot of different computer systems in this district. We have a lot of different software packages. There is a standard within this building for word processing, which is by necessity to be able to keep the records straight and the documents straight. But we have a long way to go in this district. This is only an indication that there are multiple systems available, and the people that are going to be learning Claris Works are learning that because that's what's available on the machines that are available.
Is this available on the machines that the teachers will be using to do the work that they have?
Again, I couldn't speak.
I mean, that's,
I
if
couldn't
it's not
speak
that
definitively.
way, then why?
It is on many of the computers in the different laboratories.
Fred, how would
Computer
you-
labs.
Excuse me.
Every teacher does not have a computer on their desk.
I understand that, but I mean, the computers that are available to the teachers at the high school, is that what's on them so they can learn to use it to use in the district? In other words, we're not just teaching them something that they'll never ever use because they can't get on machines that have that on it.
I can't answer that question.
And have we looked at what's available for them, and do we have maybe teach them a course on something something that may be more available at the high school, for example?
I'll repeat again, the only answer that I can supply to all of this at this point in time, it is what has been taught, it is what is available. Is it the best decision that we take as a district as a whole to teach everybody? This is a way to introduce people to word processing. It is an word processing on computers, and that's about the only endorsement I can give it at this point. We do not have standards. We are not standardized on a single computer platform. It is a way to introduce people that are not used to computers and word processing to teach them about computers and word processing.
Are we teaching the teachers so they can use it themselves? Or are we teaching the teachers to teach the students?
I would imagine it's
Right?
both.
To you.
Yeah, I would imagine it's both.
Primarily for teachers.
Primarily for teachers.
Primarily for teachers to use for curriculum materials and for their personal use insofar as using it in the classroom and using for instructional materials.
How was this course chosen?
He wasn't.
All the courses that are offered up for in-service are a result of the needs as they're viewed internally. So that this course came forward as a result of recommendations from people that wanted to take it or felt that they needed it.
Why? I mean, I have the same problem Dick has. Why are you teaching something archaic when you could actually be teaching them something that's going to be, you know, like Microsoft Word and Excel? Yeah, we do have the software.
Well,
We do own the software.
let me make a suggestion.
Why don't we table this?
Let's keep in mind, I majored in phys ed, so I wouldn't have to worry about math. So I'm the worst person to be asking in terms of this. I signed that only because we have a terrible gap in terms of the people available to move things forward. We can table this tonight. I can go back and get you a total explanation in terms of what the course does.
Yeah, I would like to see us not only to find out but this course, but let's find out what platforms we have and what's on those platforms, and then what teachers are going to, you know, obviously this is not to be used to teach students. It's for the teachers. Otherwise, you know, we're not hiring the right people if they have to take a beginning level class that's going to teach the students.
Mr. Bowman, Mr. Bowman, Miss Brown's in the audience. I think she can help. She's a teacher, and she may be able to help us in this course.
Fine, you want to stand? Ms. Brown, would you come to the podium, please, and provide some enlightenment to us? We get some visibility for our teachers here.
I am not a computer expert, but I have fallen in love with computers over the last couple of years, thanks to the computer courses offered by the district. But to answer this particular question, the vast majority of the computers bought in the district recently, in recent years on the elementary level, have been the Macintosh, because they are extremely student-friendly. They are a delight to work with, the kids love them, and the teachers love them. ClarisWorks is the Macintosh word processing database spreadsheet program that is highly respected, highly usable, and that's why the course would be highly desirable to many people. The teachers use it for their own work, for writing letters to parents, or whatever, and the kids are learning how to use it either through their teachers or their computer volunteers. My own children go to the district schools, and I know that in the middle school, the kids took a course partly on ClarisWorks and partly on Microsoft, partly on some other computer, I guess an IBM compatible. It really, based on my use in the district, I would highly recommend you approving that course. And I get very nervous talking in front of a group, believe it or not.
So, just to clarify that, it sounds like this is primarily for the elementary teachers to use the computers that they have in their classrooms. And that's a big difference than the high school, which has IBM labs.
That's why I said I couldn't speak definitively, but it
Well,
was software that
makes
was
more
on
sense to me
computers
now
that
that I
already
understand a little bit
exist,
more
that
about
I didn't think we were putting together a program that was putting software and hardware together that we couldn't use.
Well, what concerns me is we're teaching it at the high school, which means that the platforms are at the high school that have this on it. And
There are Macintosh there's a Macintosh, how many
we
Mac
have a
labs
Mac
are at
lab
the high
up there
school?
too? I thought the Macs were all at the.
There's a Macintosh lab at the high school also.
There's two IBM labs.
Yeah, at a Mac lab.
All right.
Have I answered all your questions?
Clear as a bell, Fred.
Dick?
What's the cost
Fred.
of?
Fred, has this gone out for enrollment for the teachers yet?
No, it wouldn't go until it's approved.
I just wondered if you had any enrollment figures yet.
Because we,
What kind of interest level have you
we are,
seen?
we're, you know, if we table it now, and we want to start the course on the 18th, obviously that, we've got a problem. So,
Do we have a cost estimate?
Yeah, what's the cost?
it's $525, I think it is.
That's what it's gonna cost us?
It's a one-credit course, so that's for 15 hours, and that's what the instructor would be taught, or would be paid.
It's on the front page of the green
I
sheet.
looked at that.
Okay, well, understanding that, and it's, obviously, there's a certain number that will be needed to enroll in the course to take it, correct?
That is correct.
And what's that number?
I don't know that number, but I know that unless there's a certain number, and I would assume it's somewhere around 15.
Okay,
Typically, with these kinds of courses, there's a pretty good subscription to them.
great. You know, I really support the teachers being able to use the machines, but I want to make sure that they're going to learn on something it's going to be around next year too. So, okay. Any other questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Are we
All those-
untabling this?
No.
There was no motion to table.
Oh,
Is there a
okay.
motion to table?
No.
We'll vote on that first. No motion to table it?
This has to be signed up by within 10 days? And that's up today, right? That's what it says.
Mrs. Sherwood, would you speak up, please? I can't hear you.
I was just asking Mr. Schmidt, because I read where the deadline is for May 1st. That's only about 10 days away even now for their deadline to
So
get
if
it back
we-
in.
So if we
I don't
approve it
know.
tonight, they have to sign up by May 1st. Is that correct?
Call for the
Okay.
question, Mr. Bowman.
I will.
We've had less discussion on the budget than we've had on this.
We haven't started that yet.
We started this earlier. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you got your course.
Thank you.
You have a recommendation here for approval to participate in the Pennsylvania Federal Surplus Property Program. I so move.
Discussion on second high school.
You move it? I'll second it.
I'll second.
We'll get them through.
I got 2 seconds.
Is 10:30 your witching hour, Tom?
I've got another presentation to make.
Motion by Perkowski, second by Shear.
That's the other way around. I made the motion because it's dead silence. Very second.
Any questions?
I just would like Art to just give us a brief explanation so we understand what this means.
We
you know,
have the
if we're gonna be
opportunity,
confused, I think I understand.
we have the opportunity as municipalities, fire companies, et cetera, to go to surplus in Harrisburg. It's a shame it's not closer. Every time we go, we find lots of things we can use in the school district at a very minimal cost, like 2 cents on the dollar. They show you the government cost, and then they show us our cost, and it's been most beneficial for us. And this is just a renewal that we have to do about every 3 years to have the privilege to go there.
But it covers a wide range of items from
I can
vans
get you a
to.
tank, I can get you a tank.
Rocket launcher.
We're gonna need one of those.
Sounds good.
Armored car to come to board meetings, I mean, I can get.
How about Quonset huts and
No,
use that as a high
it's
school?
great, it's great for all kinds of parts and materials and winter clothing for guys that are plowing snow and that type of thing. Boots and, you know, the Cushman unit that you see at the high school, we bought there.
Fine, I just thought you should explain it, because when some people see federal surplus property program, they might think we're buying more land or something, you know? So, I thought I'd better ask you. I saw what it was, but I
At
thought
2
maybe
cents
let's
at a
get it on
dollar,
record.
Art? 2 cents to a dollar, Art, buy it. I know. I've
Oh,
been
those
through
are
it.
great.
Yeah, you can buy a Jeep and put it together.
We just have to do this as a matter of formality to enter into the
We've
program.
been going there for many, many years with great success.
Okay, it's ready for.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Recommend that the board accept the following gifts as listed.
So moved.
Moved by Mingle, second by Leahy. Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Under personnel, what we'll do, if it's all right with the board, we'll go under professional. You see the names in front of you. I recommend the following nomination of the professional staff in Part A.
Second.
Moved by Reckcamp, second by Whites. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Part B is support staff, and I recommend a nomination.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Reckcamp, second by Allen. All those in favor? Or, I'm sorry, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
You see also under there, change of retirement date, retirement and resignation, which continues on the following page, all of Part H, I so recommend.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Reckcamp, second by Whites. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
You see at number 5, recommendation for a leave of absence, so recommended.
Moved by Reckcamp,
Second.
second by Allen. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
You
carries.
have item number BA-7, which is recommend approval and/or ratification of the list of the professional and support staff substitute list for the 94-95 school year.
So moved.
Moved by Reckcamp, second by Engel. Perkowski, sorry. Any questions?
Comment, I'll be abstaining, conflict of interest with one of the individuals.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, one abstention, Mr. Weir.
Number 7, Dr. Fike, if you have any comments, and after which your comments, if there are any, I will recommend approval.
Number 7,
Gonna pull number 7?
yes, I want to table number 7,
Okay.
please.
That's your comment, then, pulled. All right, number 8, recommend approval to establish head girls spring track coaches.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Reckcamp, second by Whites. Any questions?
Just a question again, I had asked before, just needed clarification. Does this provide an extra sport for girls that does not provide an extra sport for boys?
They had been in track co-ed, but it's now a female league and a male league.
Okay, but in the spring, girls have track, lacrosse, hockey. Boys have baseball, track, anything else?
Tennis.
Volleyball.
No, but
Volleyball, tennis.
There's
No,
baseball,
Penfield and Pembroke.
there's softball.
it is softball, track, and lacrosse
For girls.
for girls.
Boys have baseball and track.
That's correct.
So the girls have 3 sports and the boys have 2 sports.
Right.
They have
But
soccer.
we're not adding a sport here. This does not add a
I'm not
But
asking that, Mr. Bowman.
Right, but that could vary in a season. When you have wrestling, you wouldn't have a sport comparable for wrestling, so I don't know how many sports there are in a year. I can find out.
No girls wrestling?
Yes, they do.
Oh, they do?
They have girls
Well,
wrestling.
not a separate sport.
I understand. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On page 5, under personnel, recommend approval of the additions and changes to the extra duty assignments for the 1994-95 school year. Item 28-95.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Reckamp, second by White. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Under student travel, there are 4 recommendations on page 5, and there's one with the addendum. I would recommend all be considered in one motion unless there's a problem with any one.
So moved.
Moved by Reckamp,
Second?
second by Whites.
I have a question.
The addendum?
There's one on addendum to action, which is student travel, for one student from town of Cranwick to attend the International Science and Engineering Fair, Hamilton,
So
Ohio.
that was included there.
Yeah.
I have comments, Mr.
Do you have comments? Would you?
Yes, we have a student, 9th grade student at Penndale, and the reason this is an addendum, he was awarded first place on April 8th at the Delaware Valley Science Fair in Philadelphia. His project was titled Magnetic Levitation Transportation, an Attractive Approach. He had the best physics project from the 10 contributing county science fairs in southeastern Pennsylvania, southern New Jersey, and the entire state of Delaware. In addition, he won several awards offered by special judges from the United States Army, the Edison Society, the Franklin Institute, and scientists, and I won't give his name right now. He's announced as a gold medal winner for the entire 9th grade competition. It was judged the best of all 13 different category winners for 9th grade. The cost there is paid by the Delaware Science Association. We have to provide 5 days of substitute. This is an outstanding project, and I would like to see him go there and represent North Penn.
Can his parents go?
How's that?
Will he be accompanied also by his family, his parents, or
At
is
this, I don't know whether the parents are going. I know the teacher should go with him, of course, the student. I have a quiet description here. Actually, what he did is he made electric magnets and strong enough that it caused a lift, and then he decided to look at the materials to see the remnants of the materials, which is the amount of time that a material holds magnetism. You can magnetize something, and then some will hold it a longer time than others. And he did magnetic curves. I would love to see this project. He should be commended, and I think the right time is to where we'll have him here.
Yeah.
We will, when he comes back from this, if we approve it.
We wouldn't dare not.
We have to vote on it first, right?
I have a question on number 1. I
Okay.
don't know if it's okay.
Sure.
I assume this would come under Judy because it's Special Olympics. Judy, I see that you're talking about 10 special education students going to the Special Olympics and having attended the Special Olympic days. I just wondered, is there other chaperone support, or is it going to be a 1-to-10 ratio, and why are you particularly comfortable with that level?
Well, they go every single year. We've approved this every year. And the
Right.
Special Olympics Council has chaperone support up there.
At
Yeah,
site.
because of the nature of the program. So we felt very comfortable with this. This is something they've competed in, year out. And parents do go.
That's
Yeah.
what I meant. Do you anticipate other parents being
Parents
along?
generally will go, but in addition to the parents that go, there are also other chaperone support there.
Okay, what age group is?
Well, they're still
spanning?
competing, so I don't know where that's
It
going to
might
fall.
be
Yeah, I don't have.
Give or take 10.
Well, that's why I was thinking with 1 chaperone and 10 students are they gonna be divided between different hotel rooms, or is there some kind of special lodging established
They
where they're all together?
generally, and see, again, I'm working, because we don't have all of the information yet since they're still competing, but they generally keep them all in one place.
Okay, but if something were to occur between now and then you just have to come back for ratification or whatever if another chaperone.
Right.
So-
I will tell you, I feel very comfortable with this program.
Okay.
Judy,
And what they
there's
do.
a second staff going, but they're leaving after school. We
I
didn't have
know
to
that.
do a
Oh,
second
okay.
staff. So there is a second staff going.
And generally, that person has gone in the past, too.
Okay.
All those in favor of the 5 student travels are recommended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
You have in front of you an information item on the vandalism report. If you have any questions, please ask them at this time.
Questions? Okay, thank you, Dr. Persing, for your report. Any other business that we have, old business that we have tabled? I don't recall any. So we'll move on to, what?
Highlights of that whenever you're ready.
Oh, would you like to do that now?
I'd
or-
love to do that.
Okay.
I've been champing at the bit there. I just
Okay.
can't wait. I have a few comments to make before I go through the budget with you. I assume all of you have a copy of the budget. If you don't, there's ample copies available. During our board work session last Tuesday evening, we began to talk publicly about the school district budget for the next fiscal year. Information was provided about the revenue source and some significant changes in revenue from real estate taxes. I have talked publicly on several occasions for the need to consider an earned income tax to offset our loss of income due to assessment appeals and other considerations which lead to a loss of available funds for educational programs. Tonight, I want to talk with this audience and the television audience about the need for a careful and thorough review of the school district budget. This budget is being prepared at a time when the school district community is very concerned about partisan politics and the impact of pressure groups. As your superintendent, I cannot ignore the reality of candidates and groups of supporters working hard to convince the community that their agenda is the one with the most merit. Within the last few days, I've become increasingly concerned about the political climate in which the school district must exist. I want to call upon all thoughtful people to step back and listen, to stop for a moment and seek information, to make an effort to learn more about the challenges facing the school district, both academic and fiscal. The budget we are working to finalize will produce a 0 mil increase or a 15 mil decrease, depending on the action the board takes regarding the earned income tax. If the board accepts my recommendation to adopt a 1% earned income tax, there will be a 15 mil decrease in the budget. If the board decides to adopt an earned income tax of 0.5%, we'll expect a 0 mil increase. I will also ask the board to exempt all citizens, young and old, who earn $5,000 or less from the earned income tax. At my age, I'm very sensitive to seniors. My goal for this budget was to have a 0 increase in professional staff. I am pleased to be able to report that we have been more than successful than some expected as we worked toward this goal. In our 13 elementary schools, we will have no additional staff. The same is true for our 3 middle schools, no additional staff. At the high school, we can expect an additional 250 students. After much discussion and many tough decisions, we have agreed to include a net increase of 4.5 additional staff for the high school. I'll explain that net 4.5 at a later date. As you understand, our special education sizes are mandated by state law. Our enrollment for next year would indicate the need of 7.5 additional special education teachers. Through the planned transfer of 3 individuals, we would reduce this to a net increase of 4.5. We have cut the allocation for general supplies by $350,000. We have cut staff development costs by $200,000. We have delayed the full implementation of the Reading Recovery Program at a cost avoidance of $129,000. Capital equipment requests were cut $150,000 in the most recent screening. Many other equipment cuts were made during previous review sessions. It is my belief and the belief of the members of the Administrative Cabinet that none of these cost savings will have any detrimental effect on our students or their learning. There are many unique features in the budget for next year. One of the most obvious is a non-recurring expenditure of $1,800,000 for court settlement paybacks due to assessment appeals. This is an extremely large expenditure that will not be carried forward to influence future budgets. Some of these assessment appeals date back as far as 1984. This is the year we must pay and settle these accounts. And another unusual influence is the result of changes ordered by the state for the accounting and payment of state retirement funds. This change results in an apparent increase of $2,930,000 in the revenue and expenditure sections. In other words, this is an in and out transfer. But it does make our budget appear to be increased by nearly $3 million additional dollars. Everyone will understand that there are programs funded as a result of decisions made by previous boards. These programs are not being threatened in this budget. We have not cut programs, and we have not threatened to cut programs. I want our critics and friends to know that I am working to leave a legacy of fiscal accountability and responsible management. Even though I will be here a very short time, I want to feel that my time here has had some impact, some importance. I agreed to work here because I believed I had much to offer. Those who know me know that I face each assignment and each day with an open mind. I want to give each issue a fresh look. I am still working on this budget. My cabinet administrators are still working to refine the expenditures. While I am presenting an overview tonight, we will be much more specific next Thursday night, April 27th. Let us look together at the pages that are in your packet. The first thing I'd like you to look at, and I'll give you a little time to get that organized. I'd like you to look at, those of you who have this, it's budget restraints, budget constraints. As I said before, we have $2,930,000 in state revenue, but that's an in and out transfer. The $1,800,000 is a critical, crucial piece. If it's a retroactive assessment appeal that will not be repeated in a 96-97 budget. I want to tell you that it's my considered opinion that if the board offers a 1% earned income tax, it's my opinion that there will be no increase in property taxes next year. We'll also not have a new debt payments of $200,000. In other words, we have $4,930,000 in that budget over which we have no control. We have to pay those. We have in this budget $841,422 for capital equipment. I put that in because the last 2 or 3 years, the board has taken the capital equipment out of bond funding. This is out of operating money this year. Also, there's a $2,400,000 budget reserve for salaries due in 93, 94, and 94, 95. We must budget those. When the contract gets settled, we'll have the money to pay those salaries. That gives us a total of $8,171,422. We also need to set aside $1,750,000 for salaries, which we think will be due in 95, 96. Thus, I really don't have anything to work with beyond what I show you here, except in excess of $9,921,422. And I wanted you to see that so you understand where this budget figure is coming from. Would you please go to your next page, which is this page, which shows some of our expenditures, and in there you'll see that salaries are 56% and benefits are 16%. That's obviously, right then and there, we have 72% of we're a service industry. We are probably one of the few industries that is labor intensive. And you can see that after we have done that, the other items come down. We have professional services and property of 3%, and other services, supplies of 3%, property 1%, and for 800 other objects. Would you please go to the next graph, please, which is this one. And there you will see again a summary of review. And what we have showing there is how the local effort has shown, and look what has happened to the state and federal. Please understand, under the state income, summary of review, please understand that's a sleight of hand by the state. What they're doing is simply giving us $2,900,000 in a different form and simply saying, but now you have to pay it out. I've told you repeatedly, I'm going to repeat it again. That is the way, the means, and the mechanism by which this state government is going to try to attach to your particular revenues from the state an aid ratio formula, meaning that instead of getting 50%, you'll be getting approximately 20%, which means if you take 20% of $2,900,000, Ray, that's about $1,600,000, approximately 100. That's what it will cost local district taxpayers if they have their way. So be careful about that. That's coming down the pike. Make sure you lobby against it. Get a hold of your Republican representatives by the stack and swivel, and don't let them put these burden back on you. Now, what you have here is the next item is a summary by function. A summary by function. And there you can see, again, instruction, which is the main part of our budget, should always be the main part of our budget, keeps going up closer to $60 million. Our support services, which again is a very important part of our budget, and you can see that going up considerably, and you see other financing going up. And the reason the other financing is going up is because of obligations that we have, and help me, Dennis, but it's obligations that we have in our budget based on paybacks and based on things that we have to put for the budget reserve in order to pay those items of salaries, which I had said to you before. The last item, if you'll take a look at this one, please. What it amounts to is a summary by object, and again, that's another graph showing you the way that salaries, benefits, professional services, properties, and so forth are shown, and it shows you the growth that I think is better graphically shown. And you can see that salaries and benefits are way up there as compared to everybody else. But remember, we're a labor-intense industry. That's what we are. We're labor-intense. And obviously we have more people because we're a service industry than in fact we have everyone else. Although my first love is curriculum and instruction, I do enjoy very much working with budget and finance. I'm sorry that I burdened Mr. Kelly as much as I did, and I will take full and absolute responsibility for delaying this budget and getting it out. It's my fault. I did it, not anyone else. I'll take full responsibility. I got heck from the cabinet because I put out the budget today because they didn't have a time to review it. It was their recommendation that we review it more before we give it out, and I accepted that recommendation. But if people want it beforehand, it's fine with me, just as long as they understand this is not the final document. It's going to be retuned, refined, and so forth. I also have some other recommendations I'm going to give the board on one item, and more than one item, and that is I'm going to try to talk with them about the possibility of doing things by which the board can actually become a income-raising revenue source instead of merely spending tax money. Use their facilities and use to create more creative ideas in order to bring in, money. So with that in mind, I'd like to close while I turn and be hoarse.
I'll say I imagine Donna Mengels has perked up a little. She's been for a very long time pushing for us to involve ourselves a little bit more in fundraising to generate revenues and help cover some of the expenses that are ever escalating.
Maybe it'll sound a little different coming from you, Dr. Persing. I remember suggesting that before when I was referred to as being mercenary. So maybe you could put a different twist on fundraising.
Sorry.
But
creative financing. Thank you.
Creative financing.
Yeah, I'd like.
But we have some things we want to look at. Mr. Wood and I have really looked very seriously with
Judy Clark at some things that we can do. Special education is a serious problem for this school district, and I say that in a very positive way. I don't say that in a negative way. I want you to understand that. We have probably over 1,100, I think 1,169 special education students at last count, with more coming in. We have over 1,000, perhaps closer to 1,100 just gifted students. That in of itself is obviously around 2,200 to 2,300 special education students. Special education students are very costly. And I'm not saying they don't deserve every penny, they really do. But I'm simply saying to you, we cannot do the things we can do with regular education, with special education. We are mandated by regulations, and we've just got to abide by them, and so we should. And so we should abide by them. But we're going to look at different ways, more ways of doing it. Mr. Schmidt has worked hard in looking at personnel, and personnel being one of the top money getters, so to speak, and Art Wood, and Dennis has worked hard, Ken Ware, and my good buddy Dr. Fike, who's just a little more conservative than I am, and that's hard to believe. He's looked at things hard also. So I beg your indulgence. We're trying to get this out and get it in a form that we can be proud of, and something that I think when we get finished, it'll give you a legacy, as I said, a legacy of fiscal accountability and sound fiscal management. So with that, I'll close.
Thank you, Dr. Bushman. And please be advised that there are dates that have been set to review various portions of the budget as we go along, so that we don't try to take the whole thing in one swoop, that we can bite off a little bit and look at that and then continue on. And that schedule has been published and previously announced, and I think we'll be on the rolling screen on Channel 16 as you see it.
Dick, I'd like to make just one comment. Dr. Persing brought up an issue about the sleight of hand of the state. A lot of that has to do with putting the burden of early intervention back onto the school districts. And I do urge you, as Dr. Persing did, to talk to your representatives and make sure that they do not put that burden back on the school districts. We did this last year. We were able not to have that burden put on us. It will cost us a substantial amount of money. We estimated last year close to $2 million it was going to cost us if the state decided to put the burden of early intervention back on the school districts. So please, the budget is there. Governor Ridge has presented it. I strongly urge everyone to call their representatives and make sure that the school district is not burdened by the early intervention.
Okay, thanks, Carmen. I've been informed of a potential administrative problem. Does anyone remember making or moving the motion for student travel? We voted on it.
Yes.
Yes.
I made the motion, and I forget who seconded it.
Somebody over here seconded.
Yes. For the
Okay.
student travel?
We can always.
Yes.
Do you have it?
Not the particular, just when it was moved, then we opened it up for questions.
Yeah, it was moved,
Yeah.
I think it was moved and seconded, but we want to check and make sure it was, okay.
Shall we do it again?
You don't have it?
Just to be on the safe side?
Again, we don't have
That's
it.
my thought.
Secretary does not have it.
Let's do it
Doesn't
again.
have it, and until we review the tapes, we won't know, so let's just do it again.
Okay, I'll make that motion that we approve the 5.
Is there a
Second.
travel
Second.
items.
Second by Leahy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we have, great, thank you. Now we'll move on to treasurer's report. Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. For the month of March 1995, we had cash receipts in the amount of $1,531,813.14. Cash receipts year-to-date, $85,001,676.43. Disbursements for the month, $10,545,848.56. Year-to-date, $63,627,522.93. We have term investments in the amount of $11,430,370 and temp investments in the amount of $16,091,784.
Thank you. Any questions of Dennis? Dennis, someone mentioned tonight that we have not been, we've been remiss in trying to collect outstanding tax payments, and I think that was implied
Well, Mr. Bowman, that's really not part of our responsibility. That belongs to the Montgomery County Tax Board, and we receive, in fact, we just received a check today for $235,000 for delinquent taxes. What in effect happens if people go past a certain delinquency date, their house goes up for sheriff's sale, and then we do recoup the money that way.
There's a full process.
I just wanted people to be aware that we aren't letting these laggards go on and on and on.
That's correct.
There is a vehicle to have that happens outside of the school district, so, just wanted some clarification on that, Dennis. Sanction and approval of invoices for the general fund.
Yes, I recommend approval of the sanction checks for the month of March in the amount of $10,627,374.59, and disbursements for the month of April in the amount of $520,729.71.
So moved.
Moved by Allen,
Second.
second by Redcamp. Any questions? All
Dick.
those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, wait, sorry, we had a question.
I just wanted to note, I'll be abstaining. I didn't receive those documents. We don't know what happened, but with the agenda, and I assume they were in with the agenda, perhaps before the meeting. That's usually how they come.
Seemed in my packet.
So,
Yeah.
but there was one over the weekend, and I was away for the weekend, so I don't know what went wrong, but I'm going to abstain just for credibility's sake.
All right, that's fine. Then you need to sign it.
Sure.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Well, abstain.
Dennis, this is unusual, you get to do the food services report too.
For the month of March 1995, we had total income in the amount of $382,971.25. We had raw food costs in the amount of $199,702.86, and other operating costs of $200,565.37, for a net loss for the month of March of $17,296.98. Our year-to-date is a surplus, however, of $18,780.90. My concern was with the loss for the month, but in looking back, at this point last year, we were $18,000 in a deficit. I feel with the 19-day strike and with the lengthening of the school year, we'll definitely end up in a surplus this year.
Great. All right. Any questions of Dennis on food service?
Dennis, will we be getting any reports on the impact of the federal government on us? Kind of how we're going to handle that?
Mrs. Irvin, who's just serving as interim food service coordinator, just attended a meeting, and I'm meeting with her sometime tomorrow to go over what she found out.
Great, thanks.
Could we also get where we stand on the breakfast club?
And I do have that tonight if you.
Breakfast Club?
I'm not
That was
quite
a
sure
movie.
what.
Breakfast.
What info.
He's
No,
been
not
wearing
tonight,
his
just
T-shirt.
sometime get us that.
Okay.
He said he has it.
No, not tonight, I just said sometime just provide us some info.
He's got it.
Well, I can give you a total breakfast served year to date or 28,000, but I'll get you the whole report.
Yeah, I'd just like to see how we're doing. Great.
Good to see you wearing your T-shirt.
Yeah, Federal programs, Dr. Fike.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Solicitors report.
No report.
Mr. Potash. If that's it, is there a move to adjourn? Let me make two announcements before we tap the gavel. Anyone that wants to pick up copies of the budget books tomorrow, Mr. Weir's office, no earlier than noon. Okay? Please, so he has time to reproduce them. The second thing is there will be a short executive session immediately following to discuss the personnel matter. We're adjourned.